Good morning, everybody. It is Friday, March 8th, 8:47 a.m. We are live again, once again, for another Markets Open. What a week it has been. This has been one of the most monumental weeks, I think, definitely in Palantir's history, at least since 2021, given not only what the stock has done, but given some of the upgrades we've received and obviously some of the events that the company has hosted this week. We're going to be going through a full AIP conference recap, all the stuff that I saw yesterday. I got to sit on all that information yesterday and discuss. We're going to be talking about Dan Ives, who has upgraded Palantir from $30 to $35 this morning. So we got the Dan Ives upgrade. He saw the same things that we saw yesterday at AIPCon and was like, you know what? This thing doesn't deserve to be 30. He was the most bullish at 25 a couple months ago. Now it's 35. That follows Mariana from Bank of America also raising it to $28. On top of that, we got a jobs report that just came out. The United States added 275,000 jobs, but the unemployment rate increased to 3.9%. So it's a really weird paradox because we added way more jobs than we thought. So it's a hot jobs report, but the unemployment rate rose 0.2% from 3.7 to 3.9. So the market's actually up on this news. You would expect the market to be down because they would think that inflation is getting very sticky if we have 275,000 jobs, but actually the S&P is up 0.32% in the pre-market because they're happy unemployment's going up. So we've got to talk about that dichotomy. And then finally, Bitcoin. We got some major news on inflows yesterday. So we're going to be discussing that and talking about everything we've got going on. On top of that, obviously, we've got a little bit of an announcement here today. And so we got the hair. I'm not wearing the hat today. Let me know if you guys like the hat or the hair. I decided to wear the hair because we're doing an announcement. So I was like, you know what? We got to have a carp type of hair for the announcement. So why not? Why don't we have like a nice hairdo? You might not think it's nice, but this is my natural hair. So this is what I look like without the hat. For those who haven't seen me, without the hat, this is what it looks like. The announcement will happen at 10 a.m. All right. So we're going to do the market open. We're going to do the regular show. I am super excited to announce this bad boy. This is a product that I've been working on for the past 5 months. It is a product that I think is incredibly useful, incredibly valuable. It will cost $42 a year to use it. And I think it's really cheap for the value that it provides. So it's going to be really fun presenting this product and overall growing this product over the next, basically however long I do this, because I think this is one of those products that can scale to potentially hundreds of thousands of users over the next 5, 6, 7 years as we grow this community and as we keep it going. So it's going to be very exciting to see how this plays out. So stick around till 10 a.m. and then we will do the announcement. Thank you everybody for being here. Christian, Sock'em, Chris, Dyro, Jared, Afton, Blake, Big Billy, Chana. Good morning to you. Andrew, Robert, Kaiser, his app better be called Palantir Hood. Robinhood as well, up about 1.4%, 1.5% in the pre-market, 1661. Big Billy, Drew, Blake Anderson, Kevin, Jenks, Thomas, Kevin Smith, get a haircut hippie. Okay, understood with the capital letters. I got it. Anthony, Jace, Kenneth, Blake, Ariel, Philippe, James. Thank you all for being here today. Stop Consoles War says, hey, dude, I like your hair like that. LOL, things no straight guy should say. You know what? I think we all can compliment each other on our hair as men. It's an endearing thing to be able to do. And if the hair is like with Carp, I mean, you know, there's a reason we got him on the background. There's a reason. What did I click on? I clicked on StreamYard. There's a reason we got Carp here. I mean, the hair is exceptional. I mean, a lot of people I know invested in Carp and Palantir because of the hair. And that was a little bit part of my investment thesis in 2021 as well. Like, how do you look at that guy and not think, wait a second, I should look at this company a little bit more seriously. So the hair is out. We're ready to present. It'll be fun. Today's one of those days also that's exciting in the world of just my life, because whenever you bring a new product to the market, it's exciting. You get to bring something out to the world. You get to get people to see your idea, your vision, your concepts. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. That's kind of the risk everyone has to take if they're going to be kind of ambitious in the world, right? So really fun to be able to have an opportunity to do that again. And I think we built up to it really well over the past 3 years. I mean, this product that we're announcing today is basically a culmination of 3 years of work all in one place. And so it'll be really cool to see that. Now, one quick announcement I'll make as well. Twitter is lying about the live numbers. So Chad, I just got your message right here. He just texted me, how are there 376 people on the morning X stream? There's not 376 people. Right now, Twitter is saying 418. Elon is juicing the numbers. Elon's juicing the numbers. And the reason Elon's juicing the numbers, I mean, I don't know the reason. I guess he wants to incentivize people to go live. But I realized yesterday when we were listening to the Costco earnings call on this YouTube channel, There were 2,500 people with me on Twitter listening to the Costco earnings call. I don't think 2,500 people stayed for 40 minutes to listen to Costco's earnings call. So Elon is absolutely juicing the live numbers. It is completely fake. The only numbers I'm looking at right now on YouTube. So on YouTube right now, I see that we have 646 people. I think I'm talking to 646 people. I do not think I'm talking to the 1,500 that StreamYard says, because it's not StreamYard's fault. They're just counting the Elon numbers from Twitter, but Twitter's numbers are fake. It's absolutely fake. So for anyone who's going live on Twitter, or if you're looking at stuff on Twitter that's live, it is 1,000% fake. We used to get 40, 50 people on Twitter live, which was amazing. That's great, because Twitter is not really a platform to go live on. Now it's 20x in 2 days. No, that hasn't happened. So yeah, Tucker Carlson had 1.5 million tonight. Tucker Carlson did not have 1.5 million. But dude, people's attention span on Twitter is not enough to stay alive on Twitter. Like, YouTube's a whole different atmosphere, a whole different world. Twitter is like, it's quick. And like, people might listen for a little bit, but Twitter is just not the place where people do that stuff. So I don't know, dude. I'm kind of considering not even streaming on Twitter, because at this point, it's just like, I need accurate numbers when I'm looking at this. It's just weird to not get it. So yeah, if you're on Twitter, I know there are people on Twitter, but it's completely fake. but YouTube, I think, is a lot more real. So we're here today. Okay, cool. So let's get started. Right now, Palantir 2703 in the pre-markets as well. I think let's start off with Wedbush's upgrade, and then we'll talk a little bit about AIPCon, and then we'll get into Bitcoin and everything else that's going on along with the jobs report. All right, so Wedbush, Dan Ives, officially upgrades Palantir to $35. And the reason it seems like he's upgrading Palantir to $35 is based on the strength of AIPCon. So here you go, raising our price target on Palantir from 30 to 35. Our recent checks on Palantir in the field have been incrementally more bullish, as we believe the AIP Foundation is becoming viewed by many U.S. enterprises as the launching pad of AI use cases. Now, that was also really exciting. This quote right here, launching pad of AI use cases. I did not expect Dan Ives to be able to say that, even though we kind of know that's the case. But if companies are saying, hey, this enterprise platform is the way for us to be able to enable AI, then I think that's very, very exciting. I just changed my title. I said 30 in the title. Yeah, let's do 35. 30 was the old price target. So now $35. 35 would put Palantir basically at like a $72, $73 billion market cap. Right now, currently Palantir is at $58 billion. When it opens up, probably closer to $59 billion. I don't think necessarily that's overvalued, because the growth is there. And I think that's the real thing that matters when it comes to Palantir, that if the growth is there, then 75, 80 billion, like valuation starts to matter a little bit less if they're growing. I know the PE on Palantir is insane, but the only reason it's insane is because the growth is not like phenomenal, right? Like 19% year-over-year growth is good. It's reaccelerated, but it's not great. If Palantir puts up 25 to 26% year-over-year growth, which given what we saw at those boot camps yesterday, I think that is very possible to happen, then this is going to get really exciting really quickly. I mean, there is no reason that Palantir can't run to 30, I think, in the next couple of weeks, just based off the hype and sentiment alone, especially given NVIDIA is $950 in the pre-market. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but that I think is definitely going to have a 954. It's definitely going to have a resounding impact on Palantir stock action, because investors are going to want to get AI exposure. But if the market continues to stay the way it is and Palantir keeps putting up these numbers and we get deals and partnerships, I mean, dude, $30 is very, very possible. It seemed like $30 was crazy a couple weeks ago. Now, valuation would probably be up there for that 30, but if the street's expecting Q1 numbers to crush, which I think the street is expecting Q1 numbers to absolutely crush, then we're going to see a Palantir that's in a much different world. And it's going to be really exciting. Blake says, am I the only one who wants to buy more, but probably shouldn't, given the hype? I think the philosophy that I've started to come to around on Palantir, especially given the recent execution we've seen, and I mean, all of us have kind of been thinking about this for a while, but when we were buying at 7, 8, 9, 15, 12, right, during that whole basically 2 years of capitulation around those prices, it was kind of just taking a bet that maybe this would turn out. So it was a very risky investment, but the idea was, okay, well, where are you going to bet your horses on, right? Like it's going to be Palantir, maybe Tesla, but like these are the companies to look at. And the entire market was undervalued, quite frankly. You had like Amazon at $85. So there were a lot of good opportunities there. Now that Palantir has pretty much proven itself, I think the only way we tank on earnings, meaning like every earnings, the only way we don't go up 10, 15%, 20% crazy types of numbers is if we underscore our expectations so badly that like we're only growing at 15%, 17%, 18%. I think that's a thing of 2023 and 2022. I don't think that's happening in 2024. I do think that Palantir has been sandbagging and that those numbers are going to beat, which means here becomes the existential question for Palantir. If they beat their numbers, If growth is substantial, if Nvidia is still at 950 going up to 1,000, 1,100 a share, and if the market's not collapsing because we've got inflation coming down, Palantir should be able to appreciate. I know it's already up 60% year to date. And yeah, we might get a pullback here and there, and maybe there's some better opportunities for entry. But I don't know if 27 necessarily is the most expensive, given the fact that that growth will continue and that growth will make 27 potentially look cheap. Same thing around this 24, 25 range. So it's going to be really exciting to see how this happens. Now, CPI is next Tuesday. We got a hotter jobs report. We'll talk about it in a second. That might affect inflation. That right there could get the entire market to pull back just a little bit. But again, I don't think there is something catastrophic. And we're going to look at some other historical numbers that could get Palantir to tank to a substantial amount. Bitcoin right now is teetering on 68,000, 67,947. Ethereum is $20 away from 4,000. The market makers will not let Ethereum get to 4,000, but I know they want to get it to 4,000. 39.84 right now. Here's Karp talking yesterday about a potential consumer product around AIP, something we've been speculating around for a long time. If they release that this year, then yeah, 27 will probably seem cheap in the future.
Consumer publicly available, and when will there be a direct to consumer publicly available version of AIP?
Look, Palantir, you are seeing the tip of the iceberg when you are buying our product now. We've been working on these things.
You can't buy it if you're a person off the street.
Great. You are seeing the tip of the iceberg of our product development, and we are going to show more and more and more of what we have. And I think people, and I would also like, a lot of those people asking the question, by the way, are not academic. They are investors in Palantir, and they have supported us when we were down on the ropes. And those are the people that we are fighting for.
So that's kind of a nod to retail investors, right? He's saying, look, the people that we're fighting for, the people that were supporting Palantir when we were down in the dumps, and down in the dumps means $6, and you had some crazy, MFers on YouTube making videos every day saying, hey, maybe this thing is like actually real and the street's stupid and stuff. Like, he's talking about those people. And particularly he's talking about the entire community that we've all created around understanding this product at a granular level. As a result of that, I think that concept of AIP in terms of a consumer product, maybe it's not anytime soon, but it's definitely something that they've thought about, because obviously if you could build a custom LLM for an enterprise, why can't you do that for the end consumer? Now, Palantir getting into the consumer space is probably something they don't want to do yet. They probably want to master the enterprise business first and then switch to consumer, but it will be really exciting to see kind of how it plays out. We got Chris in the chat. Our resident Palantir bear says, this is crazy. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. I don't know what to tell you, Chris. The street likes the stock, baby. The street likes the stock. Palantir right now, $27 in the pre-markets. And look, at the end of the day, if NVIDIA is trading at 950 and the market's willing to give NVIDIA that premium, I don't know why the market should give Palantir a $20 price target or a $21 price. Like, if NVIDIA is worth $2.2 trillion, Palantir with reaccelerating growth in the sector that we know is growing, I think that's worth 50 billion, 58 billion. I think that's worth 65. That is very possible. Now, maybe that's not the best entry price if you're just establishing a position, but you can't time it, right? Like, you can never time this stuff. So if you have to get in just the DCA, I think that's totally fine. You'll probably have many better opportunities in the coming weeks if we get some macro data that inches up. But if NVIDIA keeps running, this market is not going to stop. Now, let's talk about NVIDIA for a second, 953. We'll go back to Palantir and we'll talk about AIP Con in a little bit. But let's talk about NVIDIA. Also, great comment by Philip right here. Snowflake is down. There's no AI bubble. I mean, that right there is showing you the divergence between these two companies. Snowflake is at 169. It fell from 237. It's a nasty fall. That's a what is that? 70? No, 30. That's a $67 fall. So basically a $70 drop that they had. Palantir is up 15% from the lows this week. Okay. So if this was a huge bubble, I think a company like Snowflake would also have a $75 billion market cap like they had last week ago, not because of they should just like they deserve to have that multiple, but because everything would be going up. Everything's not going up. Snowflake's not going up. Unity is not going up. It's at 27.67. It's down from 43 in December. Like, there are companies that have not rallied like crazy. There are companies that have rallied, i.e. NVIDIA, i.e. SMCI, even though none of us like SMCI. It's at $1,200. It's up 4% of the pre-market. But the reason it's up is because they do have the growth there. They do have the growth, or at least investors are perceiving the growth. Another quick fact, Apple's down. I mean, if Apple and Tesla are down, I don't think we can argue that this is a meme stock rally, because it seems like investors are saying these companies aren't innovative enough for us to allocate our capital right now. Apple's down from 199 to 169, Tesla down from 230 to 170 or 179. Maybe a company like Palantir that is showing significant opportunities for growth, even if the growth numbers are not exactly, phenomenal at 19.1% year over year, that's a better place to allocate our capital. And same thing with NVIDIA. Now, NVIDIA here at 954 is incredibly interesting. Why is NVIDIA at 954? I have a graphic that I want to show you guys that I think kind of highlights why I think NVIDIA honestly is not done running and why this bad boy is probably going to $1,000. And Google's down, correct. And Google's down as well. Marvell also slides. Yeah, like what I've seen in earnings is that companies that have not performed, Costco was down 5%. Costco crushed their numbers, but they missed on revenue by $2 billion. The market was like, you're down 5%. So this is not some like, oh, you produce crappy numbers and the market's like, all right, well, we'll just buy whatever for the hell of it. The market's being very selective in what they buy. And I think that's pointing to maybe lack of frothiness, even if there's frothiness in certain sectors, but lack of overall frothiness. Here's another chart to kind of prove this. So the current PE ratio of the NASDAQ 100, which is representing U.S. tech stocks, the QQQ, is at 35x. This is below the dot-com bubble when it was 81.7. So people can argue that the PE right now for the QQQ is inflated. And look, that's an argument that is reasonable to make. But in the context of the dot-com bubble, this thing was more than double the PE right now. And the dot-com bubble, again, you had companies like Pets.com going public that had no understanding of how to monetize the internet. The internet wasn't connected. There wasn't any AWS. There wasn't any broader infrastructure for people to be able to upload, distribute content. Like, it was just a bubble. It was legitimately a bubble. And then it took many, many years for the internet to actually form. And now we're in the world of generative AI. I was listening to a Jensen Huang interview last night. I don't think that this is a bubble in the context of that the technology is fake. Maybe valuations are stretched here and there, but going to my point on why people are investing in NVIDIA, if the overall PE of the NASDAQ is 35 and NVIDIA is the top dog in the NASDAQ, NVIDIA is the one that's putting up all the numbers, where else would you put your money in the NASDAQ outside of NVIDIA, right? If you had to actually pick which company to go for. And I think that's why we're seeing this momentum in the context of NVIDIA. And that's why it's up another 5%. Here's Jensen Huang talking. It's a 1-minute clip. It's a really good clip yesterday about how to invest in generative AI. And when you listen to when you hear him say this stuff, it kind of gives you an understanding of why he's so confident that his company is not only undervalued, but that the growth hasn't even really started when it comes to their overall AI prospects. Here we go.
Very little of the information I'm conveying to you is retrieved. Most of it is generated. It's called intelligence. And so in the future, we're going to have a lot more generative. Our computers will perform in that way. It's going to be highly generative instead of highly retrieval based. Then you go back and you got to ask yourself, now for entrepreneurs, you got to ask yourself, what industries will be disrupted? Therefore, will we think about networking the same way? Will we think about storage the same way? Would we be as abusive of internet traffic as we are today? Probably not. Notice we're having a conversation right now, and I don't have to get in my car every question. So we don't have to be as abusive of transformation, information transporting as we used to. What's going to be more? What's going to be less? What kind of applications? Et cetera, et cetera. So you can go through the entire industrial spread and ask yourself what's going to get disrupted, what's going to be different, what's going to get nude, so on and so forth. And that reasoning starts from what is happening. What is generative AI? Foundationally, what is happening? Go back to first principles with all things.
All right. So from that perspective, what is generative AI? Go back to first principles. I think that comes down to where are you investing? How are you looking at allocating capital to companies that are actually performing when it comes to generative AI, or like establishing the inferencing, the models, which is all, GPUs from NVIDIA, to be able to enable generative AI. It comes down to NVIDIA. And that's why I think AMD got a bump. That's why I think all these other semi companies are getting a bump. Let's go to the semis playlist we're seeing right here. A lot of these companies, all of them are, pretty much green in the pre-market. Some of the ones that reported earnings yesterday are a little bit red, but Taiwan's up another 4%. Qualcomm is up 0.16%. Intel is up 2%. Intel's almost getting back to those levels where it was at when it fell from 23 back to 50. Right now at 46.81, it fell to 42 because their earnings expectations were 12 billion versus 15 billion for Q1, and that was not the best guidance, but still, that's up. SMCI 4%. AMD up another percent today, 213. AMD was $100 in November, dude. This thing has just exploded. NVIDIA fell to 674 the day everyone thought the world was collapsing, because right before their earnings, the market got super scared about what NVIDIA was going to report. And then they crushed their numbers, and now they're up even more. So my thesis right here on NVIDIA and look, we could absolutely get a pullback, is that the market's realizing that if AI is real and they need exposure, and all of the bears that have been sitting on the sidelines since 2023, that clients, they're about to be fired by their clients if they don't get them exposure. They're FOMOing into NVIDIA, but the ironic thing is it's not that much of a FOMO, because NVIDIA is still going to crush their numbers, and maybe they're buying at 900 is actually going to do well for you. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. But right now, I think that's what we're seeing for NVIDIA. Addy says we are in a bull market territory right now. I agree. We are in bull market territory. Now, but here's the question. A lot of people have been saying, oh, are you selling Palantir? What are you thinking about it? Like, the stock's up. My perspective on Palantir is very simple. And I think this is the same perspective I think everyone else has to have. Palantir is honestly the only company I only have stock in, right? Like quite honestly, the only, Tesla is the other one, but and Tesla's 30 shares. It's not a lot. Palantir is the company where I have stock and I don't touch it. And I'm even thinking of removing my Robinhood Palantir shares and transferring it to Fidelity and literally just never looking at it. Like after I saw AIPCon yesterday, I was like, I just want to get this off this platform, put it onto some fucking cold wallet or something, and just open this shit up back in 2030, right? So, yes, I think there's some opportunities in the options market. I think SoFi, there's an incredible amount of opportunities now that it's dropped. That $10 leap in 2026 is exciting to me. But when it comes to Palantir, when it comes to NVIDIA, I mean, our good friend Tanner from the Future Investing channel, he's big on SoFi. NVIDIA is his largest position. He's not selling. And I think this guy, I don't know what his average is, but I think this guy, he got in at 2018, 2019. So he's sitting on probably a 3, 4x, 5x on NVIDIA. Why would you sell? I think the same thing with Palantir. If you have an average of 12, 15, if you even have an average of 24, it doesn't, I think when the stock gets to 200 in the next hopefully coming years, maybe the next decade, maybe however long it takes. But I think 200 to 250, that puts it at the Oracle, Salesforce type of market cap. I think that's a reasonable comparison. I'm not saying $1 trillion, not saying the next Microsoft. I'm saying Oracle, Salesforce, enterprise software companies. Palantir is a lot more innovative than those companies. I think it reasonably can get to that $300, $400 billion market cap. Then a $30 average is going to be very, very cheap. A $7 average, which I know a lot of you have, is going to be incredibly cheap. So, but really, what's the difference between 25 and 30? There's not that big of a difference when the stock's at 200 or 250. So in the context of Palantir, which answers the question that a lot of people have been asking, are you selling? How do you feel about, taking profits? I think that this is not a stock, and NVIDIA as well, and AMD for that matter, that you want to take profits on. This is one of those things you want to just let it ride. You literally just want to let it ride. And if you let that thing ride, it's going to be really, really fun. Quarantine Court says, do we DCA at these levels? My average is 22. Again, here's my actual answer to this question, because I bought a 50 shares last night in the overnight markets at 26.04 or something, right, on Robinhood. My answer to this question is that if you have an average of 22 right now, the price at 27, it doesn't feel like you're sitting on a ton of gains. But if you have a long-term trajectory on Palantir being a $200, $250 stock, 22 or 27 doesn't matter. 25 or 26 doesn't matter. Even if you have a $40 average at that point, it really does not matter as much in the grand scheme of things, right? If you got into Tesla at 15, 30, 40, 50 bucks, the stock's at 170, 200, 250, it's not that big of a deal. So the question is, do you need the cash right now, or can you think of it as almost like a startup investing? Can you just not look at that cash for the next 10 years, right? That's how I'm thinking of my Palantir in investments now. Can I not look at this cash for the next 10 years? If I need the cash right now, I'm going to feel a need to sell. I'm going to be like, oh, if I buy, at 26 and it goes to 28, let me take those $2 of profits because I need that cash. If you need that cash, I wouldn't even invest it in Palantir, because then you're going to have the feeling of, oh, I should swing it as it goes higher. And it could go to the downside as well from 27. Look, at 27, it's up 60% year to date. This bad boy could fall back to 24 pretty easily as it could go up to 30, because it's very volatile, right? There's still a low institutional ownership here. So for me, my philosophy now investing in Palantir, NVIDIA, AMD, these generational companies is buy it and just don't look at it. Put it in a exchange you don't even look at every day, and then let it kind of play out. That's kind of how I feel about it. That's really how I feel about it. But it's got to be a company you really have belief in. And I think the things Palantir has showed us over the past couple of weeks, in particular Q4 earnings, is that they are executing, and maybe they're going to have a couple quarters where, it's not as good as we wanted it to be, but that's the nature of the broader market. But the trajectory they're on is insane. And I just think selling right now, or taking some profits here and there, you're going to regret it 10 years from now. But it's got to be a stock you actually want to hold for 10 years, which for me is Palantir. If not, then it is like that. In the context of Tesla as well, I mean, look, Tesla right now is up right now in the pre-markets. Tesla 181. I don't have the same conviction I have about Tesla for Palantir. I think that's obvious. I've studied Palantir very deeply compared to my studying of Tesla. Like really my analysis of Tesla comes down to what I've heard from other people. It's not just my own due diligence. So if Tesla runs to 250 and I'm sitting on an average right now of 182, like, yeah, I would feel kind of compelled to sell, right? But if Palantir ran to $40 today, I really wouldn't feel compelled to sell because I'm like, well, if it's at 40, it's at 40 for a reason. And if it's at 40, it can definitely get to 50, 60. It's not 2021 is my point where it ran to 40 and this sucker's coming back down because it's just overly inflated. You could say the valuation is a little stretched. I don't think you can say it's so egregiously inflated that it deserves to have this epic crash. And I think the same thing about NVIDIA, same thing about AMD as well. Brofesco Joe says, I got into Tesla 10 years ago. Yep. And that's the fun part. That's the fun part about holding this thing. Like, it's going to be way more fun in 10 years. You're like, I'm 26. My 36-year-old will really thank me that I just let those Palantirs rot and didn't worry about them. Like, I really do think that's how, it's going to play out. And so and if you do want to trade Palantir, have a small account that's a trading account. Like if you have a main position, then have a couple $1,000, whatever is appropriate for you, where you just swing it back and forth if you think there's some swings to make. But the overall large position, I think, is untouched. You leave it and you just let it play out over the next decade. My average is 8, but I don't have enough. Yeah. So here's the thing. The other thing I was thinking about the other day is like, look, if your average is low, then averaging up is not the worst idea in the world, because if you're averaging up at the end of the day, if you have more shares, I mean, this is what we saw Cathie Wood do yesterday. So Cathie Wood ended up buying 79,000 shares. What was really interesting about Cathie buying shares yesterday is she usually buys on a down day. She bought on an up day. Sorry, not 79,000, 19,000. And the reason I think she bought on an up day, she bought 79,000 2 days ago. So today she bought 19,000. The reason I think she bought on an up day when Palantir surged 3% is because, and look, it was in the ARK space fund or whatever. So they probably just were like throwing some shares in there. It wasn't like a huge, like, oh my God, we're going to buy a ton of shares because of AIPCon. But it was one of those things where she was like, you know what, let's just get some more Palantir. So I think if you have a low average, averaging up, especially if you have an $8 average, which is just beautiful, that you have such a high margin of safety, right? That if you average up, your average will be like $10, $12, which is not bad if the stock's $200, right? So I think from a position sizing perspective, it's really just not that big of a deal, but it's got to be a company you genuinely like. You got to have the conviction of conviction. You got to have balls holding it to wait, because I think the NVIDIA thesis is something all of us as Palantir shareholders who are not in NVIDIA, which I know a lot of you guys in the chat are in NVIDIA, should be able to take something away from. The NVIDIA thesis has played out. I'm looking at a $950 stock right now, $2.32 trillion market cap. They had something unique that no one else had, and they had a leader that was visionary. Jensen Huang, and then GPUs. Now, Palantir necessarily doesn't have GPUs, but I do think in the context of AIP and all the innovations they're coming up with, they haven't acquired a company since 2016. The idea that they would have a product that they have a sort of a monopoly on when it comes to pricing strategy, i.e. 0 to 1, I think that it's very possible. Boot camps is unique to them, so that's kind of like their own pseudo monopoly they've created. And then they have a visionary leader like Alex Karp. I think if Karp retires, I really question my Palantir conviction, but it doesn't look like he's retiring, dude. On that interview yesterday, he looks like he's ready to keep going. So you've got two of those things. If you give it 10 years, you never know what happens. You never know what happens, and that's how I'm thinking of it in the context of Palantir. Tesla says I averaged up ever since 7. Yep, I think it makes sense. I think it makes a lot of sense here, but it's got it. Because look, I think the thing could definitely fall back to 24, 25. Like we could have a big old sell-off and then it drops, and at 24, 25 is still up 40% year to date, but now people will feel bad. To me, any dip is just like, all right, this is another opportunity for me to throw money into something I'm not looking at. I'm not looking at the profits, not looking at the losses, I'm not looking at my average. I just blindly throw it in and I just leave it there. And that is the only stock in the stock market I have that real sense of, that's how I want to approach it over the next 10 years. Everything else, it's more day to day, especially with the derivatives, but not with Palantir. I cashed up, trimmed some Palantir and NVIDIA. And yeah, like I'll also say this here, if you need the cash, if you need to pay rent, if you need to just reserve some cash because you think, some stuff is going to happen, then yeah, trimming it is fine as well. If you have 5,000 Palantir shares at an average of 14, you want to sell 500 just to raise some cash and capture some gains, I think that's totally fine. I don't think that's a big issue. I just think long-term, a position being held is something that is going to be good in the future, and it's something you're going to like as well. Okay, for those that are just joining, the big announcement for today, that will be happening at 10 a.m. So that product announcement will be happening at 10 a.m. It is for Palantir investors, so I'm super, super excited to announce it. A bunch of people already got signed up for it over last night, and they got to play with it, and they're enjoying it. Now, ironically, I had no idea. Aurelio says, I remember when the stream had 40 to 50 people watching. Congrats on it. Yeah, it's been a long journey, dude. It's been a long journey. And that comment, I think, is also that comment kind of speaks to launching this thing today. We've been waiting for a while to launch this product, and it's really fun that now it's the time to launch it. Ironically, I had no idea that Palantir was going to go up 15% this week. They were going to get the Titan contract, and they were going to have an entire AIP conference, and then Wedbush would upgrade them to $35. Like, if you're going to launch a product that's around Palantir, you kind of want to do it when like the sentiment is pretty positive around Palantir. And trust me, I had my developer finished like 4 days ago, and I was like, all right, cool, so we can launch on Friday. I had no idea that in those 4 days, like 17 different events would happen that would pretty much make this the best time to launch a product. I mean, if you were going to launch a product, it's like going public in 2021. If you were going to go public, you better go public in 2021. So everything kind of came together for this product launch. Super excited for it. 10 a.m. we'll do the announcement, and I think you guys will enjoy it coming up. Okay, let's talk about Bitcoin. So Bitcoin inflows are starting to get pretty aggressive right now. So let me share this tab right here. So let's talk about a bunch of different updates we had in the context of Bitcoin. Okay, Fidelity in particular. Fidelity brought in $473 million of inflows on Bitcoin yesterday. Now, Fidelity has historically brought in about 100 to 200 million a day. So Fidelity just did 2x the level of basically like, inflows that they did on Bitcoin. And it's kind of crazy because it's like, well, wait a second, why are they doing 2x the levels than BlackRock? BlackRock only did 200 million yesterday, which is very interesting because BlackRock did 788 million the day before. So BlackRock kind of slowed down a little bit, and Fidelity kicked up, which was really exciting to see. Their total Bitcoin holdings now are 6 billion for Fidelity. Bitcoin right now at 68,000. We are officially above 68,000. And BlackRock is 10 billion. So BlackRock is 10 billion and Fidelity has 6 billion, which is super exciting. Okay. So then here we go. ETFs continue to pull hundreds of millions of dollars, only 2 red days in the last 30 trading days. This is another thing that's getting very interesting about these ETFs. The inflows are starting to go out the wazoo, and we're seeing barely any red trading days. And these red trading days are primarily because of GBTC and some like people that were selling from years ago. But overall, it's not a trend, which is why Bitcoin fell to 59K and then rebounded right back to the $68,000 level. BlackRock is about to have 10 billion. Fidelity has 6 billion. So obviously demand is very strong for these ETFs, and it's really important. And then it's not just about BlackRock and Fidelity. Valkyrie had 2 record smashing days in a row with 40 million and 41 million. Now it has 300 million assets under management. And more ETFs that are smaller across the world are getting exposure to Bitcoin. Now, here's another thing that came out yesterday. BlackRock files with the SEC to purchase spot Bitcoin ETFs for its global allocation fund. What does that mean? That means internal investment committees inside of BlackRock are now going to be able to recommend the Bitcoin ETF to a variety of clients that are inside of their institutional client base, which just means a shit ton of more entities are going to be putting money into Bitcoin. How does this go negative for Bitcoin? People decide to sell. If you're sitting on Bitcoin where you have a phenomenal average and you're just like, you know what, I want to take my profits, that sell side pressure is going to combat the buy side pressure. But at what point does the buy side pressure get so intense that even the sellers are like, you know what, maybe I should just hold this damn thing because there's so much money pouring in, more money than we could have ever imagined, that it's going to get pretty intense. When Bitcoin does the halving, 18 months after, 12 to 18 months, it tends to double. And so if that's the case, I mean, after the halving, I don't know what this looks like, but 6 digits is definitely on the table for Bitcoin. The question now just becomes how much are those inflows going to keep staying up, and how much those inflows are going to happen as well. Miguel says, Amit, I would pay for your course. Well, good thing that I don't like courses and I'm not launching a course. So we will not launch a course. Amit will grow until he sells a course. Don't jump the shark. Yeah, dude, I've said that publicly on my channel a lot of times. Like, courses are just, I just don't believe in the product. Like, you're selling your information for like $700 and like, it's not the most exciting thing. If you're going to build a SaaS business that is a tech product that is infinite scale, that's more exciting versus a course that does have infinite scale, but like the value of it is just not that much. So, yeah, won't be seeing a course. Now, Apple right here at 169, ARKB at a point, ARKB up 1% of the pre-markets, IBIT also up about 1% of the pre-markets. All of this is based on Bitcoin kind of touching that $68,000 level and allowing that momentum to flow in to Bitcoin that we've seen with those Fidelity inflows and those BlackRock inflows yesterday. Now, on top of that, some of you guys may have missed this news. Arizona last night just established that the Bitcoin ETF is going to be their official, it's going to be one of the official ETFs that's part of the state's retirement portfolio. So we're talking about an entire state's retirement assets, which I would imagine are close to a couple $100 billion. that's going to be allocating 1 to 2% into Bitcoin. So there's just a lot of money coming in. And if there's a lot of money coming in, I think that money is going to potentially push this price a little higher. I know we made the meme yesterday that Amit's analysis is that if this thing goes higher, it's going to keep going higher. Well, in the context of Bitcoin, if this thing goes higher, it's going to keep going higher. Robinhood 1660 right now in the pre-markets as well. Let's look at some of the crypto stocks and then we'll talk about some more macro news and we'll get into jobs data. So let's look at the crypto stocks right here. We've got Coinbase that just smashed yesterday. Coinbase right now is at 244 in the pre-markets, 245. It is $5 away from IPO price, which is going to be so nice for people to see that have been with Coinbase for a long time. CleanSpark, 1830. This bad boy fell to like 1520 this week. I mean, the CleanSpark's been all over the place, but that one's up. Ethereum trying to touch 4,000. Ride is up 1%. Marathon's up 1.7%. MicroStrategy up another 2%. Right now it's at $1,320. Bitfarm's up about 2%, and then Robinhood up about 2% as well, which is really exciting to see. to see what's happening. And Nat says Amit's new product is an audio gain limiter. Okay, it's I definitely need an audio gain limiter because I know my voice gets very eccentric when I get excited. So I probably should buy that soon. So we will work on that. The funny thing about this too is that it's a Palantir product, and for those that sign up and pay for it, you're basically paying for Palantir shares. Quite frankly, because most of that money is just going to go into Palantir shares. So if you buy the product, it's you're supporting Palantir essentially because that money is just going straight to Palantir. Okay, let's talk about this jobs report. So this jobs report is really, really, really interesting. Jobs report came out to 275,000 jobs, which the market really didn't expect. But it also meant that unemployment rose to 3.9%. So there's a real dichotomy here that's happening in the context of jobs. So U.S. job growth total 275,000 in February, but unemployment rate rises to 3.9%. So Labor Department reported today, economists surveyed by Dow Jones had been looking for payroll growth of 198,000. We added 229,000 in January, now 275,000 in February. Average hourly earnings watched closely as an inflation indicator showed a slightly less than expected increase for the month and a deceleration from years ago. That's really good. Wages rose just 0.1%, so no risk of a wage price spiral. 0.1 of a percentage point below the estimate, and we're up 4.3% from a year ago, below the 4.5% gain in January. Now, the weird thing about this is that unemployment is up from 3.7 to 3.9. And that's the only reason I think the market is up right now, because if we had added legitimately 175,000 jobs, and if we added 275,000 jobs, and unemployment stayed at 3.7, I think this market would be scared out of their pants that inflation is not slowing down. Because logically, like when you add more jobs, people have more money they can spend, and it's hard to get inflation to fall off. It's like when you're losing weight, right? We've used this metaphor before. Going from 170 to 150 is easy. Going from 150 to 120 is hard because you already lost 20 pounds. And so like it gets harder the less you weigh. So in the context of the market here with inflation, going from 10% to 3% over the past year, it was hard, but it wasn't the hardest thing. Going from 3% back down to 2%, that last percent is not going to be easy. And CPI next week, if we don't have a 2 handle there at 2.9, 2.8, I think the market's going to be a little concerned. I don't think it's enough to sell off this market or sell off this rally, because this rally is proving to have a totally different leg of its own outside of being attached to macro data. But it will give us a little bit of a pullback, potentially a dip opportunity, if inflation is hotter. And then if inflation stays hotter until April, then maybe we're looking at something that's an issue. But the fact that unemployment rose means that inflation potentially is going to come down, because we added a shit ton of jobs, but unemployment's higher. So people technically are less employed, which means inflation should come down. It's a really weird dichotomy we have right now, but that's why you see the S&P up at 515 right now. And that's why the broader market is tending to rally as well. So we're going to see kind of how this plays out, but it's going to be exciting to see what happens. Amit, what are your thoughts on the Rivian cars? Okay, so Rivian went up 2%. If you got the bottom on Rivian, congrats. Rivian was at 1007 on the bottom. Right now it's at 13. Guys, it's up 18%. Holy crap. I did not know it was up 6% in the pre-markets. It was up 13% yesterday. I don't even know why the cars are so exciting. I didn't get to see the presentation, but I do know that, if Tesla shareholders must be so pissed off right now that Rivian is doing great. Now, granted, Rivian fell a lot this year, but I guess the street was excited about these Rivian cars. So they introduced the R2 or the R3. And this is what you got. Oh, they announced a higher performance R3X model and said that R3 will be 5 inches shorter than the R2. I'm not a big car guy, dude. I don't really care about cars. I drive a Honda Civic. I'm totally happy with that. But I guess people were excited. The street was excited about this, and stock's up 18%. Now, the problem with Rivian going up 18% is, okay, it's up 18%. Are they going to decrease OpEx to the point where they're finally, forget profitable, but closer to profitability, and their gross margins aren't egregious in comparison to Tesla? Remember the stat: Rivian spent $2.4 billion to deliver 14,000 vehicles. They spent $1.4 billion to do 14,000. Tesla spends $2.4 billion to deliver 450,000. So Tesla has delivered 10x the amount of vehicles for only a doubling of the operating expenses, which just proves how like horrible Rivian is financially in the context of losing money. The reason they're trading basically at cash is because the market thinks that they are going to not be able to not only pull a profit, but actually deliver enough cars where the profit is substantial enough for the margins to reflect a positive earnings growth. So the fact that they introduced these cars, I guess the market thinks that there's going to be some magical demand for the R3X, and that's what's going to get the company moving. But I don't know exactly why the market's excited necessarily about that. Skitty, thank you for joining and becoming a channel member. Skitty Von Stade, thank you so much for becoming a YouTube member here on the channel. Dario says, the question is, will they be in business once this car should hit the market? That's another good question. I mean, that's a hell of a question, right? Because it's one thing to announce the car. It's another thing to actually bring it to market, which is not an easy thing to do. I mean, this is a car that the car business in general is very difficult. Palantir 2721 right now in the pre-market. So there you go. Palantir 2721 right now. John says, my fiance said the R3 is the first EV she would buy. Interesting. So I guess people really looked at the R3 and they saw something valuable there over traditional Teslas. So interesting. I mean, look, I'm not the most interested in cars. If I ever buy a car, like a car outside my Civic, it will be a Tesla. But yeah, I guess the street was like, hey, maybe they're going to sell more cars, and that's why we should buy up their stock. All right, we've got market open in 30 seconds. Again, at 10 a.m., I will be doing that live product announcement. It will be super fun. So thank you all for being with me here today. Loopstyle Lifestyle says, congrats on your product release today. Been quietly watching since the early days. It's been really fun, dude. We've been doing this market open for almost 2 years now, had 40, 50 people years ago. And ironically, I launched something about Palantir on March 8th, 2022. I launched dailypalantir.com, which was so funny that I realized this morning, I was like, oh yeah, 2 years ago, I launched a blog about Palantir. And 2 years later, I'm launching something else about Palantir that I think is going to be way cooler than a blog. And it just shows the growth of this community and overall the growth of the company since then. Here we go, 9:30 a.m. It is Friday. Time to open the markets. Wake your ass up. Here we go. Let's get into it. Palantir, 26.93 as we open the stock market. Now, yesterday we fell off right to 26, 40, and then it rebounded immediately to 27.50. So we're at 27 right now, 26.99. I expect within the next 10 minutes, volume is at 6.2 million. Volume is lower than it was yesterday. Yesterday was about 12 million. I do expect us to, we definitely stay above 27 for a while. Do we close above 27? We'll see if that happens. But right now, up 2.3%. The street wants the stock. Institutional investors want the stock. Dan Ives upgrades it to $35 today. People are starting to realize what we've realized for about 3 years now on Palantir. And that's why we've got Palantir here at $27. We'll go to them in a second. S&P 515, Bitcoin 68,200. Nice thick green candle right there on Bitcoin. Bitcoin trying to make a run at 68,300 right now, 68,260 here on Bitcoin. Tesla's up 2% of the day, 181. Rivian is up 4%, $13. Snowflake 168. They're up 0.34%. Nvidia opens the day up 2.3%, basically up 3% right now. They are not letting go of the gains they had after hours. After hours on Robinhood, Nvidia was at 960. Guys, Nvidia was at 840 5 days ago. So seeing this thing just keep going is just unbelievable. Congratulations to people that have Nvidia stock. This is not financial advice, but I would not fucking sell this thing, dude. I would just hold it because I don't think this thing is ending anytime soon. And again, the stat we looked at this morning, PE for the NASDAQ is at 35 and the dot-com bubble was 87. So I don't know if we can really say that Nvidia is some massive overvalued company. They are now the third most largest company in the world. Apple, I think, is the company above them. Apple's at 2.6, Nvidia's at 2.3. Nvidia's $300 billion away from overtaking Apple. What a stat, dude. What a stat. That's absolutely incredible. Celsius, $90. For those that have Celsius as well. I mean, you got it at 50 at the lows when Bank of America downgraded it, and now you got it at 90 right here. So Celsius doing great. SoFi up about 1%. PayPal, of course, PayPal's not moving because PayPal's PayPal. Robinhood up 3.3%, $16.90 right now. Let's see if Robinhood can crack that $17 range again. $17 is what we've got to see for Robinhood. That's the big one. So let's see if we can crack that. Ethereum at $39.75. CrowdStrike $3.31. AMD up about 1% on the day. Google $136. Again, Google, Apple. These companies have been stuck all week, really not moving. And the reason for that is because the market's finding other opportunities to be able to allocate. IWM, the small cap ETF. Wow. 209. Look at that. Palantir, by the way, 27.22. 209 on IWM. Talk about a breakout. This thing was at 196 a couple weeks ago. 187 January. It was 187 in January. So it looks like the market's rotating a bit. And that's why the S&P is not falling, because the money that's leaving some of these big tech names are going to other areas. And so the market's kind of rebalancing that. That's really exciting to see the IWM have a nice breakout here at 209 right now. Douglas says, my trading account just hit a new all-time high. That's the only one I really care about. 400,000. Never imagined I'd control that much. Everyone give a big congrats to Douglas. We're a community. We congratulate everyone on their wins and their gains. $400,000 is a lot of freaking money, dude. And that's your trading account, which is incredible, dude. So congrats to Douglas. 400,000 is a big amount of money. And look, that's why we do this in this community. We're here not only to have some fun and listen to my jokes, which I know is the 99% of the reason you're here, but it's because we're trying to make some fucking money, dude. We're trying to make some money. We're not on Wall Street. We're not at JP Morgan all day. We're a bunch of retail investors trying to crowdsource retail information, due diligence. We did it with Palantir. I think we're probably doing it with Robinhood. And it's really exciting to see this all happen in real time, even though we're not, the big guys on Wall Street. We're actually here and we're actually able to figure this shit out. Dude, Wall Street has to buy shares of Palantir at $27 freaking dollars when people here were in this chat buying this damn thing at $7, at $12, at $14. Wall Street today has to wake up and say, you know what? Maybe we should have been listening to some of these guys. And, credit to some of these guys on Wall Street. One of my friends in Texas who runs a $50 million fund, he started buying like thousands and thousands and thousands of shares, hundreds of thousands of shares at $7 and $8 because he watched my videos, was reading Arnie's newsletter. Like he was reading retail content to be able to come to the conclusion. Tyler Radke, 68,000 on Bitcoin right now. Tyler Radke had a $7, $10 price target on Palantir for the longest. He had to upgrade to $20 recently because even he was like, you know what? I've been wrong. And retail's been right. And so it's really exciting to see that happen right here, right now. Irene Murphy, 573,000 in her account, up 32% on NVIDIA alone. Goodness gracious. I didn't know we have some fucking whales in the chat. I love it. Congrats to you, Irene, as well. 573,000 here, 32% on NVIDIA alone. Bitcoin's trying to make a run. By the way, Grindr, I don't have any experience with this app, even though you guys don't believe me, but Grindr is up 8% today because they had a pretty good earnings. So shout out to anyone who owns Grindr. They did well. Robin at $16.93. They're trying to break that $17 level. SMCI, $1,200. The really sad thing about SMCI right now, guys, is do you guys remember the thing I posted on Twitter 2 weeks ago where there was someone who lost $70,000, basically 70% of their portfolio because they had $1,000 strikes on SMCI expiring February 16th? This dude right here is on Wall Street Bets. If he had an expiration date just 2 weeks out, this dude would probably be up like 30, 40 grand because Supermicro is 1,200 and he had $1,000 strike. This is why I don't mess with weekly or monthly options. Anytime I do an option, it is yearly or usually leaps, right? So 2 years, 18 months out, because you have time for something to play out. And if it doesn't play out, you can cut your losses really quick without losing 70% of your portfolio in something that's expiring next week. It's one of those things that, as tempting as it is, because you think it's super cheap to do weekly or monthly options, I'd rather pay the premium to have 24 months for something to play out. Because if it doesn't play out in 24 months, then you just sucked at your thesis. Like, all right, you picked the wrong stock. You didn't do good research. But it should play out in 2 years if you're buying options on something that's based on price directionality. So it sucks. But SMCI now, I mean, he's got to be really hating himself right now that he lost all of his portfolio and the things at $1,200 and it dipped to that $600 level when he was gambling on it. So tough for that, but congrats to SMCI shareholders. Bitcoin trying to make a run at 69 again, 68,415. I mean, it's trying. Robinhood right here, 16.99. Robinhood as well, trying to crack that $17,000 or $17 level. Now, 17,000 on Robinhood would be pretty cool, but 7,000 is or $17 is nice as well. Robinhood right now teetering on that $17 range. So that's trying to get up there. Tesla right now at 180 and SoFi as well, up a little bit. Look at Coinbase. Wow. 250 on Coinbase. 250 on Coinbase. Coinbase shareholders are finally break even if they haven't DCA'd for 3 years. You know what's crazy? At 170, even I was like, dude, Coinbase has gone up 6x. That's a lot. Coinbase from the lows was 30. Coinbase has gone up 800% from February 2023. And you can't even say it's a meme stock because their numbers next quarter, Coinbase is going to smash because Bitcoin's going up and they make so much damn. Dude, I sold my Solana the other day. I sold like $2,000 of Solana. These mother effers took $32 for me to sell it. And then they took another 17 to transfer it to the bank. I was like, this is highway robbery. But Coinbase has a pseudo monopoly on this shit. And that's why their numbers are going to print. Now, Robinhood is much cheaper, and I think more people will elect for Robinhood, but I had to use Coinbase for this transaction. But in general, like their numbers are going to smash, and the street knows that. And I think Robinhood numbers will smash as well, even if it's not as big as Coinbase. And so we're going to see a lot of momentum there. Palantir now falling $26.85. So that $27 level fell $27.20, but it still was at $26.84 right now. CPI is Tuesday. I think CPI is next Thursday. CPI will be next Thursday. Shout out to Miguel. He turned 60,000 to 400,000 with NVIDIA. Congratulations, Miguel. Absolutely incredible. 60,000 to 400,000 on NVIDIA. Bike Pimp is up 200% on Palantir. Incredible as well. Someone says, Amit, are you coming out with a hairline product to sell? Maybe one day. I don't really use product in my hair, guys. I use like shampoo and that's it. So people always wonder like how my hair is like this. I think the key is to not use product in your hair, dude. I think the key is to just let your hair exist, you know? And so I usually don't show my hair off, and I'm usually wearing a hat. So today's like a rare day. I'm actually showing my hair, but we're doing an announcement. So I had to have the carp hair. Okay. Celsius at 90, Ibit at 39, ARK B is up 2% on the day. All these companies are up. ARM is at 142, Coinbase again 250, Robin at 1696. These companies are starting to get a little bit higher. Let's look at CleanSpark. Where is CleanSpark as well? CleanSpark, wow, 1905 on CleanSpark. 1905 on CleanSpark. There you go. CleanSpark's getting some momentum as well. CleanSpark, a lot of people were sad about CleanSpark not going up when Bitcoin was going up. I think for this company, it's really a question of when Bitcoin breaks out, which we haven't gotten really until today, we're starting to see that higher than 68 level, then the companies that follow Bitcoin will follow because the market knows what's going to happen. But Bitcoin has to break out. So that's why everything comes down to Bitcoin. It's not about CleanSpark. It's not about Robinhood, even though there's, a big part of the thesis. But the core catalyst is that revenues for all these companies will go higher as this asset breaks out. So you've got to believe the inflows are going to be strong and the sell side pressure is not going to stop it from continuing to regain momentum, which I think is probably happening, in order to be much more bullish on a lot of these crypto derivative companies as well. SoundHound is up 10%. Okay, so SoundHound is being carried, I think, by NVIDIA today. SoundHound, yep, that's up 10%, 624. And so the NVIDIA pump is probably getting SoundHound to be higher as well. TSM is parabolic. Smokey's up $4,000 since last Friday. Yeah, TSM I did not expect to be running as much. TSM is a big company. People forget. TSM is like 700 billion. TSM, 809 billion. My mistake. So it was at $98 in January. It's at 150 today. And that's a big company. That's not a company that's small to move. So SMH, obviously this ETF we've been talking about, this bad boy is just up almost 30%. Yeah, look at this, 237. Goodness gracious. Guys, this was $163, this ETF. An ETF, not an equity, an ETF on January 5th. If you had just bought SMH, you don't even have to pick a semi-stock to gamble on. This ETF has all your exposure. You are basically up, 40, 50% from the lows, or about 35 to 40% just on SMH. S&P, new all-time high. Why not? 516. Why not? SMCH. There we go. So for Jordan says, do I convert 30 shares of QCOM to invest into Palantir? I mean, Qualcomm. The question is, what's your average? How much are you up? And do you think the run has stopped for Qualcomm? I don't know that much about Qualcomm. I have more conviction that Palantir is going to do well over the next 10 years than I have on Qualcomm because I haven't done the research. But I think when it comes to trimming and adjusting positions, it's a good question because obviously portfolio management is important right now as we're in a bull market. But if your thesis on this thing is set and you don't think this thesis is dying anytime soon, then I don't think you necessarily have to trim just to get more Palantir. But again, if you lost conviction and you have really good gains and you really don't care about it anymore, doubling down on higher conviction bets, I think that's definitely not the worst idea at all. But again, I don't know too much about Qualcomm at all. SMH, great ETF. Yep, I agree. It's really exciting, dude. Rigetti Computing, I've looked at that one. That's up 100% in the last month. A lot of these smaller stocks have run up a lot as well. And so we've seen momentum there. Now, SoFi is up 2.3%. SoFi has just gotten hammered. And I think the banks have basically come to the conclusion that they don't like SoFi. And the shorts, I think the short report is going to be even worse on SoFi. It was 18%. That's probably going to get closer to 20% on the short float. But in general, SoFi, I do think is ridiculously undervalued at 768. And I think eventually the street will catch up to it. But the fact that it's a bull market and SoFi is not really running as much as it should. Same thing with Tesla, the fact that it's at 180 in a bull market. If you are heavy in those positions, it kind of sucks. And if you're really heavy, there's no point of cutting at this point. You got to buy the dip. But hopefully towards the end of the year, those things start to come up. I do think SoFi will fly. I just think it's going to take some time for that to actually happening. Did anyone catch the State of the Union yesterday? Did anyone watch that? I turned it on for a little bit. I was seeing the celebrity kind of showdown that was going on. This is, I think, the funniest thing from the State of the Union. I tweeted this last night as soon as I saw this. And we'll talk about AIPCon in a second as well. This random, as soon as I logged on and I turned it on, this is what I saw. And I was like, you know what? This guy is an NVIDIA shareholder looking at his gains after hours. This guy's an NVIDIA. Like, tell me this was not NVIDIA shareholders after hours looking at their gains yesterday, seeing that their stock was at $960. Like, it was insanity, dude. It was absolute insanity. So, the State of the Union was interesting, to say the least. No political opinions on it, but it was definitely interesting. I thought there was a lot of applause, and I know they're supposed to clap on every syllable, but I didn't know they would actually clap on every syllable. Biden was like, I am Joe Biden. Clap, 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 clap. I'm like, we are going to clap, clap, clap. Restore, clap, clap, clap. America, clap, clap, clap. I was like, all right. So they are just very, they like to give a lot of applause for every word this guy says. ARC B right now is at 68. Archer, 459. All right. So let's do some AIPCon highlights because we didn't get a chance to do that. And then we will get into the product announcement that we are announcing today. So let's talk about AIP, and then we will do product announcement in 5 minutes. All right. So here we go. AIPCon. So AIPCon was very, very exciting. And there was a couple of key presentations that stood out to me, which is why I think Palantir is also getting some momentum right now. Overall, what were my thoughts on AIPCon? I think they basically showed enough use cases of their products, of customers using their products, that made the street excited. So right here, we've got Palantir CEO Alex Karp saying, we've had a world where people sell software in a parasitic way. Palantir is now changing that. Now, what does he mean by parasitic way? He's talking about people buying software that doesn't actually provide value. So the entire presentation or the entire conference focused on different companies that are providing value. Robin at 1701 right now. I'm looking at that. Thank you for saying that in the chat. Robin at yes is up 3.94% right now. So what do we learn? Archer Aviation is now a client of Palantir. They're using AIP and Foundry to essentially become the Uber of the skies. This is a really interesting company. Kathy's been buying a lot of it. And it's kind of like a competitor to Lilium, which is interesting because Palantir is probably helping both companies in this space try to figure out how they can capture this market. I don't really think it's competition or it's a conflict of interest. I think it's just Palantir has this software that works with multiple use cases. And so they're finding different clients that could find use cases for an industry that's basically brand new, which is like Uber taxis in the sky. And then we had Panasonic. Now, Panasonic was the most important presentation to me. So Panasonic showed Palantir's mixed reality product, the thing we've been looking at, their IC2 product in the context of headsets and being able to be used on the battlefield. Panasonic's a commercial company. They showed the Apple Vision Pro using Palantir software, AIP, on the Vision Pro itself. The reason this was exciting is because most of us thought the mixed reality product was just going to be for the defense side, but it seems like the commercial enterprises are realizing that they can use VR and AR, but they need the right software to make it materialize into business results. SoFi up 4% as well right now, currently. So this is also really exciting because if we're seeing mixed reality headsets not just used on the battlefield, we're seeing it used in Panasonic, the company that makes the freaking batteries for your Tesla. Well, it's like, wait a second. What other commercial companies are out there using mixed reality headsets? And you know what's also interesting about this? The Vision Pro, I've been pretty bearish on the Vision Pro since it came out. I mean, my whole thesis was that no one really cares about putting on a headset in the consumer space. Like it's just unneeded. It's not that exciting. And maybe I'll be right about that. Maybe I'll be wrong. I do think Apple, when they figure out Gen 2, they'll get more adoption. I know a lot of people are returning the Vision Pro. But on the commercial side, the enterprise side, a lot of people are going to be using the Vision Pro if it can make them more effective, like a Panasonic when it comes to battery production. The Vision Pro is useless. You're not going to be watching Disney Plus. You're not going to be courtside at an NBA game when you're trying to mine and integrate data for batteries when it comes to building them for electric vehicles. But Palantir's mixed reality software seems like it's going to be worth potentially billions of dollars if commercial enterprises adopt that. So to me, it's so funny because the bull case for mixed reality VR AR is not the consumer, especially not with that thing that hurts your eyes and it's just too annoying to put on your head. It might be the commercial enterprises themselves, which is really, really exciting in the context of Palantir. Irene comment says, Amit, I have to compliment you. You gave me the confidence to hang in there when Palantir, I was down 30K on the trade, hang in there for a 90K profit. Thank you for what you do. You are the best. Thank you, Irene. And look, you're not alone. I was down 50,000. Everyone in the chat. I mean, I know some people that were down $20 million, $30 million on Palantir. There were some whales. There were people that were down on Palantir, but they believed in it and they DCA'd. So I think everyone in the chat kind of believed. And it was fun to see it happen, and now it's just fun to see Wall Street recognize what happened, and that's why we're here today. And when you got Palantir right now at 27.15, when you see what they did at AIPCon, it's not that crazy to imagine them going from $6 to $27, being down 30,000 to being up 90,000, because the street has recognized what's going on. Now, the final thing about AIP conference that I want to say is the last presentation. So the last presentation was by a guy named Jack Dobson. Jack Dobson. Tanner, we see you in the chat. I see you. Tanner's commenting on X. X says we have 2,000 people live. Tanner, we don't have 2,000 people live. So we've officially realized Elon is juicing the numbers. We have 1,500 people on YouTube, which I'm so grateful for. We do not have 2,000 people on Twitter. Those are all bots. And it's really sad that Elon is juicing the numbers like this. Maybe it's a bug, but I kind of think it's not a bug. Tucker Carlson did not have 1.5 million people last night. Elon was lying. I'm sorry. I love Elon, but the Twitter numbers are fake. There's not 2,000 people there. So it is what it is. But yeah, we see you, Tanner, in the chat. Okay, so Jack Dobson, he was a Palantir employee. What did he say at the AIP conference? Now, this, I think, is the biggest reason that I want to buy more shares, even at $27. Jack Dobson last night at the AIP conference, the last presentation, I highly encourage people to watch it if you haven't. It's on my Palantir live stream if you go to the live on YouTube. Palantir has built an internal AIP, and that internal AIP is a knowledge repository of every single AIP bootcamp they have done, which is about 850 of them, over the past 7 months. Now, why is this important? One of the biggest problems that Karp said in regards to scaling Palantir's AIP product is that we don't have enough engineers, forward deployed engineers, to be able to do the boot camps. Because to do the boot camp, it's like a 3-day experience. It's not about money. It's about actually being able to do this. It is a different way of selling product-led growth through sales, but you actually need to show off the product. You need to have someone sit with you and walk you through the steps. If you could automate that and you could outsource an internal AIP to clients, potential clients, and then customers that are conducting their own boot camps, which is what he talked about at the end of that presentation, this thing is going to fucking scale. Because now you've got all of these third-party customers that are part of Palantir, United, Archer Aviation, General Mills, Lennar, all these guys that are conducting their own mini boot camps for companies in their sector or companies in their subsector, and they're utilizing AIP. Now, what is the incentive for General Mills to be able to show off an AIP boot camp for some of the clients they work with? This thing is a network effect that scales with better data being built on top of it. So if General Mills supply chain vendors, so like General Mills is a cereal company, they have supply chains that are part of their cereals. If those vendors say, hey, we think there's a lot of value in automating and sort of implementing enterprise AI for our supply chain operations, then General Mills has an incentive because they're going to increase their overall revenue if their supply chains are more effective, right? Apple will sell more phones if they can make more phones in China. And if AI can automate and actually make those supply chains more effective, those vendors more congruent with the overall client, and all of that data goes back into this knowledge repository that just builds and builds and builds, then we are going to be having thousands of boot camps a month across the entire world without the need for a forward deployed engineer, which has been kind of the vision Karp's been talking about for the past 7 months. And that is going to put this bad boy into hyperscale mode, hyper growth mode. So that presentation, I think, Bitcoin right now at 68,641 as well. That presentation, I think, was one of the most important presentations when it came to Palantir, because it showcased that this is not a joke. Like, if they figure out boot camps, if they figure out AIP scaling at an unprecedented level, there will be hundreds of clients a month that are exposed to AIP. Probably say, 30, 40% of them actually get onto a pilot. And then even if you convert 10 to 20% of them a month, Palantir is going to be raking in hundreds of clients every single quarter. Right now, we're barely getting 40 clients a quarter, which is why last night I was like, you know what? After I watched that presentation again, I was like, at $27, I don't know if the stock is that expensive. I really don't. I don't think that's the case. I think it's going to be super, super, super Exciting. Crossroads says you're 100% right, Amit. I have FOMO from that last presentation. Yeah, even Crossroads, who's heavy into Palantir, he even felt like, you know what, maybe I'm not heavy enough. Because that presentation, that's basically the Foundry sort of app store that CodeStrap has been talking about since 2022, even though none of us really knew what that would look like. This is the app store. And if enterprise AI is what's in demand, and there's a centralized app store that's not controlled by Apple, it's not controlled by Google and Android, it's not controlled by Microsoft, it might be controlled by Palin mother effing tier, then I think the Bears are going to have some mother effing tears. That was good. That was good. That was a good one. That was a good one. I think the Bears are going to have to cry a little bit because it's going to get really exciting to see how this plays out in the context of Palantir and where this ultimately scales. So that was the most bullish presentation. It was the most exciting presentation. And I think that presentation is ultimately going to allow this bad boy to go to the fucking moon, quite frankly. I think that's what's going to happen. I think that's what's going to happen. It is what it is. Nate says that bar was not good. It was very good. I thought of it on the spot. Okay, there's 1,500 people. There's pressure sometimes. Palin mother effing tier. Bears are going to have Palin effing tiers. That was a very good bar. I think I deserve a little bit of credit there. And don't be jealous. Okay, so Robinhood 1709, Palantir 2709, Nvidia 954, SoFi 771. That's up 3%. And Palantir right now 2709, S&P 500 at 517 as well. Palantir $27.10. There you go. There you go. There you go. So that is my reflection on AIPCon. That's my reflection on AIPCon. Okay, so we've got a couple things to do. We've got the announcement to make. Let me get to the announcement in a couple of minutes. Let me just look at some of these prices right now. Ethereum is $7 from 4,000. And I think Ethereum wants 4,000. I think it wants 4,000. So let's see if that happens. Bitcoin as well is very close to those all-time highs, 68,708. Let's give it a couple of minutes before we do anything. I want to see if this happens. If it falls back down after a couple of minutes, then it is what it is. But let's see if it can actually get there and see what happens. That 2250 dip was the dip we've been waiting for, basically. Yep. Pretty much at 2250. But you guys get what I'm saying, right? That presentation Palantir did at the end about like hyperscaling boot camps. We're not going to grow 19% year over year, dude. Anyone who thinks we're growing 19% year over year, you're not looking at what's happening. We are going to grow, I think, closer to 25%. And I think this is just the beginning. And on top of that, we got a fucking $178 million government contract 2 days ago. That's going to accelerate the government business. Like, this business is firing on all, doing what they have to do. And I just don't think that this is the time to get bearish on Palantir. Like, I think this is like, or the valuation, because at this point, if they're going to hyper grow, valuation doesn't matter here. It really doesn't matter. Nate says we can hit 30% growth. Yeah, if we hit 30%, if Karp delivers on his promise of 30% growth, which is what he promised 2 years ago, and all of us basically were like, yeah, that's not going to happen. If he actually puts up 30% growth, it's going to be the most epic 2024 for Palantir. Because we're not going to be at $30 if that happens. If we're at 30% year-over-year growth, the multiples are going to totally be changed. Like, it's going to be exciting. Now, granted, again, do not FOMO into this. You got to have a plan to DCA into this, because this could fall 10% with that CPI data. Like, a lot of that stuff could happen. But I don't think it's the craziest thing to buy at these prices, because I do think that now, if you're averaging up for something that might be worth $200. Like, it was scary to average up at 15 because you don't even know if this thing's going to be worth 50 because the growth wasn't there. Seems like the growth is there. So if this thing's going to be worth 200, 250, which is Oracle, Salesforce market cap, which I don't think is insane. I don't think that's delusional. I think that's not Tesla to 20 trillion. I think that's very realistic, quite frankly. Then $27 is probably going to seem cheap over the long term as well. All right, there we go. Bitcoin right now at 68,622 and Ethereum at 3986. The market makers are not letting us get to that all-time high. We want to get there. They're just not fully letting it. Palantir at $27. It seems like the market wants to, but they're not officially letting the market get to that yet. All right, I think it's time we do the announcement. I think it's time we do a little announcement. Here we go. All right, folks, it is time to announce what I've been working on. I had a slide deck presentation, but then I realized let me just tweet the quote unquote presentation, and then we'll go through the Twitter thread together. So I'll tweet it at once. We'll go through the Twitter thread, and that'll be the entire presentation, and then it'll be super fun. Okay, so let me just put this in the timestamps when we're doing the announcement. 108:54. All right, here we go. So before we get started with this product announcement, I want to say a couple things. Number one, there's 1,500 people here. There's 0 people on Twitter outside of Tanner, Kelly, and Matt. So thank you for the 3 people being on Twitter, not the 2,500 Elon thinks that he's showing me on Twitter. I cannot say how grateful I am from the bottom of my heart that you guys are here with me every single morning. I wake up every morning and it quite literally feels like a dream. And I know I say this a lot, but what I've wanted to do my entire life was perform. And I had variations of performing. Sometimes I thought I would perform in the basketball arena and I tried to be the next LeBron James. That performance didn't go that well. I wanted to be the next Michael Jackson. I tried to perform that way. That one also didn't go that well. When it came to debate, when I discovered communication and speaking, that one went really well. And I became the best in the world, quite frankly, when it came to debate. And so to take those skills and utilize them, not at a job where I'm stuck kind of like looking at Excel spreadsheets, which is like just quite frankly not the most exciting thing to do, but to actually be able to present every morning, even if I'm not getting paid the $200,000 that the JP Morgan analyst is getting paid, even if I'm, getting paid $1,500 from YouTube, to do that, that matters more than everything to me. That matters more than everything. I got a bunch of emails last night. Ironically, on LinkedIn, a bunch of people were messaging me just saying, hey, dude, I think this Palantir went to 27 and people have been holding it for so long. They were just like, hey, man, I've been watching your stuff for a while. Like your conviction, like the morning show, like, thank you so much. And it's really, it's just one of those things when you get those messages that's like, oh, my mom raised me to be a good person. And I think I'm being a good person the right way. I think I'm doing this the right way. Because in this career, which is media and entertainment, you can really go down a wrong path. I think we've seen a lot of YouTubers, not to name names, but we've seen a lot of people go off the deep end when it comes to this. They become narcissistic. They become egotistical. They start shilling whatever they can shill for measly amounts of money. And it's just one of those things where if people are willing to give you their attention in the morning, I mean, I don't even know if you guys have taken a shit yet. You're willing to listen to my shit before you've taken a shit. Like, that is so special. That is just so special. And so you don't want to mess that up. You want to keep building on that, compounding on that, and you want to let that grow over the long term in order for that to be exciting. And in general, I mean, this comment right here, Joseph says, Amit, thank you for the enthusiasm every morning. Dude, I've thought about death for so long. And one of the things I thought about when I was in college, when I was going through this existential crisis around death, and like I was realizing, oh, I'm going to die one day. Cause you get to that age and you're like, I basically had a midlife crisis at 20 years old. I was like, wait a second. What if I live each day like it's my last? I know that's the cheesiest thing in the world, but like, what if I actually take such advantage of this life that when I'm on my deathbed, I'll be like, you know what? Fuck, Palantir's at $1,000 a share and it was a hell of a ride and I'll sell it right before I die. No, that's probably not gonna happen. But the point is, why don't I say on my deathbed, it was a hell of a ride and I go off into the sunset in the right way? Because at the end of the day, all of us fucking die, right? All of us die. Like all of us are here right now on March 8th, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And all of us one day will not be, forget on the stream, on planet Earth. Like we'll be dead, literally dead. Maybe we go to heaven. Maybe some people go to hell. Maybe there is no heaven or hell. Who knows? But we're all going to be dead. So the fact that we have this moment is so special. And the reason I bring this up is because I wanted to live each day doing something I actually wanted to do, and doing this live stream every morning is doing something that I actually want to do, which is just the most, it's just something that I'm just so unbelievably grateful for. And the reason I'm grateful is because my mom raised me to be a grateful person. Okay. Having said all of that, we're actually launching at 10 a.m. So I got to do a 5-minute spiel before launching at 10 a.m. Having said all of that, the reason I bring up all of this is because I am deeply scared of one day being perceived as a grifter and as someone who's just trying to monetize and get cheap bucks. So when I thought about how do I build a product that doesn't have that association with it, because I know that exists on the internet, how do I keep my brand integrity that I've worked really fucking hard to build, but still have a business? Because at the end of the day, like if you're going to be a content creator, you need to survive, right? I'm going to be 27 years old in October. Like I need to survive. I need to live, right? Like one day I'm going to have a family. It's either that or you get a real-time job. And I don't want to get a real-time job because this is so special and this is so nice. So you have to find a way to monetize. And look, ad revenue is just not the way. We're not putting up Meet Kevin numbers, Mr. Beast numbers. Ad revenue just doesn't get the job done. So you've got to build a product. You've got to get people to willing to pay for it, but you've got to build a product that is sincere. There's value in it, and people wouldn't be afraid to pay whatever you're saying to pay, because not only do they want to support, but they actually get value out of that product. And so that's why we're launching this product today. And I worked really hard to make sure that this product being launched was going to be launched the right way. All right, here we go. So that is what I was going to say. Let me tweet it out right now. Let me press post on this button. Let's make sure we're all good to go. Okay, pressing post. It is being tweeted and it is being sent. Okay, it is officially live. All right, here we go, folks. It is time. We're announcing it. Here's the product I've been working on for a long time. And this is the thing that GoDaddy priced the crap out of me for getting the .ai name. I had to pay a ridiculous amount of money. I'm not going to say the amount. It was a lot of money to get this .ai name, but I got it done. Here we go. Time to announce what I've been working on. And given the events this week, couldn't think of a more perfect time to announce it. Ladies and gentlemen, we are launching hobbits.ai. Hobbits.ai. You can sign up right now at hobbits.ai/sign up. 2 years ago to the day, March 8th, 2022, I launched dailypalantir.com. It was a blog covering Palantir. About 5 months ago, I got really bored of just posting articles. It wasn't interactive, and I realized people were going to engage with content information differently in the age of AI. So Andrew, the guy I've been working with, who's been helping me run Daily Palantir for a long time, we basically said, what if we could centralize all the content I've created on Palantir, which are 3 years of videos, podcasts, and articles, and train a model to be one of the best resources to go after in order to get information in the context of Palantir. And as a result of that, we ended up building Hobbits AI. During this process, I realized that this would be the future of how people engage with content. I have thousands of videos all filled with massive amounts of DD, research, journalism around Palantir, but all of it gets lost on content platforms like YouTube. The video I did on Project Maven on Palantir is gone unless it shows up on your YouTube feed, and it likely won't because it's from 2 years ago. So we took years of my content and everything publicly available around Palantir and built one of the most custom LLMs that is updated daily on what's going on in the company. In the following post, I'm going to show examples of how you can use it, but the core reason for building it was so that real-time information immediately could be fed to the model and then be accessed by anyone who has it. This model is trained on 20 million words that I've created over the past 3 years that I've said all around Palantir. Now, from our testing, the hallucinations are minimal. There might be some hallucinations, but it's really not a lot, given it's so highly trained on one topic. And it won't tell you the information on the stock on the day-to-day. We're working on getting those features, or it's going to give financial advice. So don't ask if you should buy Palantir. It's going to say no. But it will show you the trends in Palantir's net income or stock-based compensation or any other questions on how the company operates. I'm going to put the Twitter right here in the chat so you guys can follow it right now. And this is the product right here. All right. So let's actually use this product in real time for what happened in the context of AI PCon. So let's go through a bunch of examples and then we'll see what it says. So we just had AI PCon. Let's ask Hobbits on what Alex Karp discussed with Bloomberg right before the event started. So here you go. It's a custom LLM chat-based interface. You said, hey, what did Alex Karp talk about on his latest interview with Bloomberg for AI PCon 3? This happened yesterday. And then Hobbits gives you 3 paragraphs, 5 bullet points, and then a summary paragraph explaining what he actually talked about. Inside of this, it says he has a lot of demand. So you can go even deeper. Say, hey, tell me about what he means by stronger demand and ask a follow-up. And then it goes even deeper. It dissects all the data, synthesizes all of it. It's powered by GPT. And then it comes up with the best response in terms of what's happening for what Karp said when it comes to AIP. Okay, and then let's go to some other examples. Panasonic, they just spoke at AIPCon. We just talked about their mixed reality product. I can say, hey, how is Panasonic using AIP in Palantir's mixed reality product? And then Hobbits will give you the answer because it's trained on all that data, and it will give you the answer in depth in terms of what's going on. I think this is a product that's primarily built for people that are junkies of Palantir. This is not a product that's going to have 20,000 users. This is not a product that's maybe one day, it has many, many thousands of users. This is a product that if we can get 1,000 people to sign up and pay for this by the end of the year, that's exciting to me. It's $42.69 a year to use it. You get 10 free messages as soon as you sign up and you can play around with it. There is a cost to train and inference the model. So there is a cost associated with it. That's also why we have to charge for it. But I think for those that are Palantir junkies, this is one of those things you can use pretty much forever for $40 a year, which is less than 2 Palantir shares, and it's going to be incredibly valuable. Let's go into some other examples. So Q3, Q4, Hobbits, analyze both of those earnings in terms of all the numbers, all the qualitative stuff about boot camps, and give me a summary about what happened in Q3, Q4. And then there you go. So it'll analyze Q3 numbers, Q4 numbers. It's trained on all that data. It's going to give you a bunch of results and a bunch of numbers. I'm not going to read the numbers right now, but you guys can see it. And it's basically saying, hey, here's what happened in Q3. Here's what's happening in Q4. Here's the difference. Here's why this is special. Here's what stuff is going well for Palantir. Here's what's not growing, like the government business. And this is what's important for Palantir. Another example, patents. A lot of people don't know Palantir has thousands and thousands of patents. All of those are trained into the model. I'll answer questions in a second. Let me just get through this and then we'll answer all the questions. So you can say, hey, show me specifics about a patent Palantir has that has to do with ontology, include the date, description, and everything else. And then this model will basically show you the patent number, when it was filed, the creators of the patent, what the patent does. This is called an ontological mapping of data, why it's important, etc. And it can do this for thousands of patents that are trained on the actual model itself. It gets even more fun. You can say, hey, I want to know every single deal Palantir made in 2021. And then boom, List me all of Palantir's partnerships from 2021. The reason this is fun is because, again, if you just want to know something about Palantir, if you're like, oh yeah, didn't Palantir like power the CDC? Like, what's happening with that? And you have to go to Google, you have to go to, Bing, you have to try to find an article, you have to like go to dailypalantir.com 2 years ago where maybe we have an article. Now you can go to 20 million words that I've spoken for the past 3 years inside of this one model. And for $40 a year, you can know every single deal that Palantir has ever had without ever having to look for those deals or understand what those deals are. And you can ask in-depth questions about all those deals. Jim Simmons invested in Palantir. Why? Jim Simmons is one of the best investors of all time in terms of Renaissance Technologies. I think he's compounded like 40% annual growth for 30 years. Why did he invest in Palantir? And then the model will give you data. Why? Because I did a bunch of videos on Jim Simmons 2 years ago. All of that data was filled with quality analysis and like reporting from like actual things that I read. All of that's built into the model. And then there you go. This is why Jim Simmons has 43 million shares of Palantir. So that's what we had there. And then another one, how is Palantir different than Snowflake? I mean, this is a question that everyone's been asking for a very, very long time, right? Snowflake and Palantir. Snowflake fell off the roof, down 30%. Palantir is up 30% in the past week. Well, this model will give you the exact answer. Snowflake focuses on the data layer by providing a cloud-based platform that simplifies storage and processing, whereas Palantir is more about data analytics, and it goes even deeper. In fact, let's show an example right now. Sorry, the camera was off. Let me turn my camera on. Let's show a fun example right now. So let's go to hobbits.ai. Okay, so there you guys can see it. So let me ask Hobbits. Oh, by the way, this is the let me log out. This is what it looks like. So this is the homepage. We have to when Karp sees this, he's gonna be like, this dude. When Karp sees this, he's gonna be like, this freaking guy actually made this. But it's gonna be super fun to see how that works. Okay, so we're gonna log in, explore Palantir. We're gonna log in, and I'm gonna go through other parts of the website in a second. So let me log in right here. And I'm going to ask it a interesting question. I'm going to say, you guys can see this. Why does Alex Karp from Palantir refer to other companies selling software with steak dinners? And let's see what Hobbits says to that. All right. And let's see what the response is. Okay, no, one of the reasons it might be taking some time, and it's actually funny this is happening, is because, and this is what OpenAI warned me when I talked to them, there might be a lot of traffic right now happening. So this was working in the morning. The reason you might be seeing a little bit of delays because there's probably a lot of people signing up and logging on right now, and that's why it's delaying what it's working on. So let me log out and see if that works. I had a feeling that might happen this morning because a bunch of people are working on the model. Model's going to slow down a little bit. Let's see if it actually pulls up. Let's see if it works it here. Yep, it's definitely slowing down because I have a screenshot, so I'll show you guys a screenshot in a second, but it's definitely slowing down right now because there is a lot of traffic hitting this thing right now. All right, so let me reload it and see if we can get it here. That's actually a good problem to have, and it's a problem that will be resolved once we upgrade our servers. So it's not the worst problem to have. But yeah, that's the problem we have right now. All right, so we'll upgrade the servers in a second. I had a feeling that would happen. We'll fix it in a second. The point is, it would give an answer basically saying, hey, the reason that happens is because all these companies end up selling steak dinners. And it goes into Karp's analysis about why steak dinners are bad and why ultimately, we have to have a totally different perspective on how we think about enterprise software. So that's one of the core things that happened. Elon Musk moment. Yeah, we basically just had an Elon Musk moment. We basically just had an Elon Musk moment. I'll show you guys that screenshot in a second, but that's one of the things that's there. Here's another one. Let's get philosophical. How does a company care so much about civil liberties, but also has to work with the government? Bitcoin right now at 68,900. And then it will tell you, look, philosophically, Palantir works with the government, but they care about civil liberties. And here's the in-depth breakdown for why they care about civil liberties, why they care about working with the government. And it goes super deep. I did a video on this many times over the past couple of months, and about Peter Thiel's kind of philosophy on working with the government, given his Ayn Rand libertarian philosophy. All of that is trained on this model right now. Andrew says one H100 will fix it. It's so funny because I knew this would happen in the morning. I was asking it tens and hundreds of questions playing with it. Obviously, there's some traffic that's hitting it right now. Okay, then here's another one. List me every single Palantir healthcare deal and what Palantir is doing in each deal. So if you've ever been curious, like what are the healthcare partnerships we have for Palantir? We know that Palantir has this huge repository of deals. We know they've partnered with 20% of US beds are powered by Palantir. But what are the deals? Cardinal Health, Concordance, CDC, Merck, Fujitsu, US FDA, 3M, HCA, Tampa Bay, NHS England, Mount Sinai, Policino Geminili, Cleveland Clinic. All of these guys are listed right here. You can get real-time data immediately on the deals. And then you can even get to know what they're actually doing with these partnerships in and of itself. And so there's what we have. Robin at 1719, new 52-week high on Robin as well. Palantir 2701 right now. So overall, it's going to be really fun building and growing this over the years as more and more people around the world learn about the company. Again, the product is yearly subscription at $42.69. The website is hobbits.ai/upgrade, hobbits.ai/upgrade, and that's when you'll be able to access the product itself. I'm going to take a bunch of questions now. So let me pull up all the questions. How's it different from ChatGPT? We'll talk about all that. But that's the product. That's the product in a nutshell, and that's what we are building here with Hobbits. And it's super fun. It's super, super, super fun. We'll be able to make graphs in the future. Yes, we will. When GPT gets better. So right now, GPT doesn't allow us to make graphs. GPT-5 is coming out. So the other good thing is this product, if you're a Palantir investor and you have to pay $40 a year for this, I think the reason you pay that much is because you're going to keep this product for a very long time. Because if you're going to keep your investment in Palantir for a long time, this product's not stopping. It's going to get better and better and better. Here we go. The model's finally working again. So let me show you the steak dinner example. So right here, why does Alex Carr from Palantir refer to other companies from selling software with steak dinners? And then the model goes in depth about why the steak dinner metaphor is their traditional critique of enterprise sales practices. If you ask that to ChatGPT or Gemini, you might get a response, but it's not going to be the type of response that a custom Palantir LLM is able to build. So as GPT is getting better and GPT-5 gets even faster and stronger, this model is going to get faster and stronger. And that's why I wanted to build this, because I'm like, okay, Palantir News is not going anywhere. The only reason I'm able to launch this type of a business for Palantir is because Palantir has so much news surrounding it. Civil liberties, ontology, Foundry, AIP, boot camps, all these different analysts that say different things. I mean, like the depth of the technology of the products, the patents, the Western values, the geopolitical crises, Russia, Ukraine, NHS deal. There was so much going on in the world in Palantir. It's why I've been able to build my YouTube channel off covering Palantir, because people want information and there's actually exciting information to analyze. If you could dump all of that into one model that exponentially is getting better, because GPT is exponentially getting better, and then one day it pulls up charts and it pulls up this and it pulls up that. I think for $40 a year, it's gonna be really exciting. I think for $40 a year, it's gonna be really exciting, and hopefully it's something that's exciting for people as well. Okay, let's do some questions and let's see what people have to say in the chat. And I'll stay here for an hour asking more questions as well for what's going on with the product. Okay, so what's the difference between this and GPT-4? Okay, so I thought about this for a long time. Look, there's two core things about this. GPT-4 uniquely is a $20 subscription for getting information about everything. The only reason you would pay $42 a year for this, by the way, GPT-4 is $20 a month. So GPT is what, $240 a year? This is $40 a year. So yeah, it's not $20 a year, it's $20 a month. The only reason you would pay $40 for this is because you value the ease and comfort of having a model that is specifically trained on all the information you need in one space. So if you ask, hey, GPT, tell me the net income trends of Palantir over the past since they went public, it might be able to give you an answer. It's probably going to try to find some resource that's on the internet. Even Gemini, I've tried it as well. They like try to find some stuff, but there's not really the best stuff there. Versus a model that you paid $40 for, $3 a month, that immediately gives you the answer because it's specifically trained on that. So the unique differentiating variable, in my opinion, is that Gemini and GPT, as good as they are scouring the entire internet to give you something that is going to be a half-baked answer for something that you want real analysis on. Like the reason you're watching me over CNBC is because CNBC will give you some analysis. By the way, Robin at 1730 right now. They will give you some analysis on what's going on with Palantir, but I'm going to give you like a lot of analysis on what's going on with Palantir. And so that's sort of the core difference. The fundamental argument to me is just like, there's a component of, hey, do you want to support the channel? Do you want to support the content? Do you want to support the growth? But also, do you want to use something every single day that's actually valuable and that shows you the value over time as you're actually using that product? Here's another example right now as well. So here's net income. You guys can see this as well. So I said, hey, tell me about Palantir's net income in 2020 and what has changed as per Q4 2023 earnings. And then the model basically says, hey, in Q4, we had 93 million. In Q4 2020, we were losing, a couple $100 million, and things have changed over time. And then you can go even deeper and say, hey, tell me all of the net income numbers we've gotten since Q4 2020. And it'll literally say Q4, we lost 500 million. Q3, we lost 200 million. Yada, 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 yada. Q4 2023, we made 93 million bucks. So I think it's just more specific, more targeted, and it's better to be able to use. Crossroads says right here, LLM is not very useful without training. That's another thing, that's the whole thesis on Palantir. LLMs mean nothing unless we actually have trained those LLMs to provide very specific data. Bitcoin, by the way, 68,996 right now, trying to touch that 69,000. Ethereum at 3,980 as well. Palantir 2703. So An LLM like Gemini or GPT, it's trained on so many parameters that it ultimately becomes useless for hyper-specific use cases, which is what I think the vision is for Microsoft around all these different independent startups making their own custom GPTs powered by GPT-4, but trained on their own data. And so that's kind of why we have it right here. Let me put it again in the chat right here. Let me put it here for those that have not seen it. I'll also pin it in the chat. So this is the website, and you guys can check it out right now, and I'll pin that in the actual in the chat. And so that's why, that's why I wanted to build it, and that's why it was exciting. Now, in the context of as a creator, like how am I thinking about it as a creator? As a creator, the content that I create today is gone tomorrow. You are lucky to get 24 hours of shelf life on a tweet, on a video, and then it's dead within the YouTube and Twitter algorithm. That's okay. I understand content is hyper competitive, but in the context of making this into a business, you can't just make content and that content dies because there's no monetary aspect to that content. So in my perspective, I was like, well, wait a second. Instead of chasing views and like, oh my God, I need 20,000 views to make $50 today. What if I could worry about putting out high quality content? And because I have a wide enough audience that actually cares about the product I'm building, they're able to subsidize the advertising revenue. Because if 1,000 people sign up, that's $42,000 in revenue. That is way more than what YouTube has ever paid me. So 42 grand from 1,000 signups, which by the way, it's not profit because there's an inferencing and training cost. So that $42 is going to get sliced up a bit. But that's way better of a business model than chasing views. And so that also makes me incredibly excited about what we're seeing in this model and what it ultimately can become. Bitcoin right now, 68,974. It's trying to get 69,000. It's not getting there yet, but it's trying to get to that level right now. People said $3 a month sounds better than $48 a year. I asked a lot of people about this, and most people told me $40 a year sounds better. I don't know why, but most people were like, actually, $40 a year is way better. I don't want to worry about a monthly subscription, but I'd rather just give you some money all at once and not worry about it. I want this to be so cheap where you sign up, and next year on March 8th, when you see, Hobbit's AI charged you $42, you look at it, and instead of being like, fuck, I just paid $42 for this thing, you smile because you're like, oh yeah, that's Amit's product. And not only do I want to support him, but I actually use this thing. I even if I use it once a quarter, most people I think that are junkies are going to use this thing every week. I do find value in that. And as a result of that, you don't feel bad for paying that subscription. I think it's way better than paying, $700 for a lifetime course that you pay once to get some information that's not going to be that valuable. Here's another interesting tidbit from the model. Why did Edwin from the Bear Cave not know what the term ontology meant when debating about Palantir? I bet if you ask Gemini or ChatGPT that, it's not going to give you a good answer. It's not. So the Easter eggs that only the Palantir community knows because of what we built on this channel, that's also built into this model. And it's super, super, super exciting because obviously, the model can say, hey, Edwin didn't know what ontology is because he's not that familiar with Palantir. And so it's fun stuff like that I think is also very, very exciting when it comes to this model. And it's super fun. Super, super, super fun. Noodler says, I hate YouTube. I'll sign up now for your new product. Thank you so much, Noodler, for joining. If it's slow, guys, please bear with it because I think it's getting more traffic than it's ever gotten ever. So I would have to upgrade the servers right now, which I'll do right after this, but that's probably why it's not the best. Just give it like a couple hours and it should be better. Oh, here we go. It's actually working really good. It's working really good for me. So it's not too bad. There we go. It's working right now. Someone put a question in the chat. We'll ask it a question. Someone put a question in the chat. We'll ask it a question and we'll see anything it has to say. So there you go. It's working. You can see it in real time now. It's going to get much faster as well. When I upgrade the servers, this is going to happen like really quick. Right now, it's taking like 5-6 seconds to give the answer. It'll happen quicker than that over time. Okay, here's another piece of the product that I want to show you guys. We have 3 components to it right here. So this is also going to be a blog. It's going to function as a blog. So right here, we have Palantir prompts. Palantir prompts is all the different questions you can ask this model. So we have hundreds of these right now. You can go through them. You can copy and paste them. You can literally summarize lectures that has happened for Palantir. So let's try this one. Summarize dynamic 5G connectivity Dish and Palantir. So let me go to the model. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to summarize this talk that Dish gave with Palantir. And let's see if it can actually give me an answer on what happened with Dish and Palantir. And so there it goes. It starts saying, okay, because we have the information, because we have the transcripts, because we have the inferencing data, if you were curious, how's Dish working with Palantir? I don't even know who has a Dish on their house anymore. Most people have, just cable boxes, but whatever. This is how Dish is using Palantir. And then it gives you answers and it gives you all that stuff and it keeps going from there. So there's a bunch of prompts you can use. 69,000 Bitcoin. There we go. 69,000, folks. Robinhood, by the way, is breaking out a little bit. 69,000 Bitcoin. Robinhood up 6.7%, 1748 on Robinhood. Bitcoin, 69,000, 68,982. It's just teetering at that level. Palantir, 26.95, up 1.7% of the day. And SPY, 517. Okay, and then we've got Palantir News. So every day, you're going to get 5 bullet points of a summary of news around Palantir. So instead of having a blog with an article and a thumbnail and all that stuff, you can just click on this website and immediately get your Palantir news right there as well. And so that's going to give you news for Palantir. And then Palantir charts. This is going to come up next week. We made a bunch of financial charts with all their numbers. That's going to happen next week. And that'll be posted on the platform as well. And so there you go. That is what we got for Hobbits AI. Boom. There you go. All right, let's answer some more questions. Let's answer some more questions. Question: how quickly does it update to your new content? It updates literally every day. So I make a video. My video immediately transcribes all that data that all the words that I said in that video, and then we feed it into the model. So literally, if you ask it a question about AIPCon right now, it will give you an answer. Ask it about General Mills. Ask it about Lennar. Ask it about Lowe's. Ask it about any of the companies that presented. Panasonic. It's going to give answers. Ask it what it thinks about Carp's Belly. I will make sure we put that Easter egg into the model. But that's the fun stuff about it, right? So some of the prompts that I think people can ask: how are Palantir and Tesla similar? Is there a link between Palantir and Tesla? Which there's a lot of links that the model is trained on to be able to speak about that. How is Palantir working with Airbus or Fujitsu or Cleveland Clinic or Jacobs or Ferrari or Ringier? Or tell me, like, Ferrari's a car company. What exactly is Palantir doing to help Ferrari? Why is Palantir working with HCA Healthcare? How are they enhancing Mount Sinai's business when it comes to nurse scheduling? Tell me about Palantir's AIP. Tell me about Apollo like I'm a 5-year-old. Actually explain to me what the hell Apollo is. Could Palantir ever create a consumer business? What is Project Brown Heron and how does it relate to Palantir? Palantir got a $10 million contract 3 days ago about electromagnetic warfare. A lot of people don't know about that stuff. That's associated with Project Brown Heron. A lot of people don't even know about that project. All of that is trained into the model to give you accurate results. What is Palantir doing in South Korea, Japan, Russia, Germany? All of these answers you can ask immediately and get results, and then be able to give you answers as well. Same thing with financials. It's not going to tell you if you can buy the stock, but it's going to say, hey, tell me what their stock-based compensation is looking like. Tell me what the government customer count is like. How many customers do they have? How much does the average government customer pay? What are their operating margins look like? What are their billings looking like? What is their free cash flow? What is stock-based compensation as a percentage of revenue? Why wasn't Palantir profitable? Why did they just become GAAP profitable? Will Palantir get into the S&P 500? All of these questions I think that people are thinking about on a daily basis that maybe they don't need to ask daily, but they go to Google or something to get results. If you could ask this centralized model for $40 a year, I think hopefully that's a good bargain for Palantir. Okay. Are you pulling in other data automatically into the model? No, we are manually training all the data into the model. So we're manually training pretty much everything into the model in terms of what we are doing. And it's just every day. It doesn't take long to train the model. Eventually, we're going to hook it up with a bunch of APIs that can take data immediately. But like every time Carp speaks, like Carp's talk yesterday, it's trained. You can ask, hey, what did Carp talk about at AIPCon 3? It'll give you the answers. What does Sham Sankar talk about on CNBC? Like everything is trained immediately and it goes there. Now, the one thing I don't use is other people's content. So I'm not using like other YouTubers' content. I'm not using Forbes articles. I'm not using Bloomberg. I'm using my content and publicly available Palantir data. So that's sort of the core difference. My content, what I speak, I have full proprietary ownership over it. And then Palantir stuff is public. Anyone can access it. And that's how we do it. And so it's fun. Super fun. Does it go through your live streams as well? Yeah, every live stream that I've done where I've talked about Palantir, I have a tool that can index all of that stuff, transcribe the data, and then bust it into the model. And so it gets really exciting. It gets really, really exciting to kind of pull it out and get all that information. Can we get a free trial? So you do get 10 free messages if you sign up. So you get 10 free messages where you can play with it. You don't have to upgrade immediately. So once you sign up, it'll let you ask 10 free messages, and then it'll say you can upgrade. So for those 10 messages, you can get to use it a little bit and then potentially upgrade as well. Okay, cool. Let's see what other questions we have. Is Hobbits only based on your daily updated knowledge, or will it give any updates before you hear about it? So it will give updates before it hears. So for example, Titan. That's a good question. I have talked about Titan for the past year. If you asked it yesterday about Titan, it will give you updates on what's happening with Titan before it even knew that we were getting the Titan deal. So if you were saying, hey, what is Titan deal? Why is it so important? And is Palantir going to be able to get it? It would give you some explanation about what it is, why Palantir got it, or why Palantir might get it, why Palantir's in the running for it, competing against Raytheon, and why it's so important. So it will give you any information before it happens, as long as I've spoken about it, which is how it should be. right? Because it's not some magical thing that just knows that Palantir is going to get a deal. I have to do the research on it. Then I have to put the research out there on the platforms, and then the model has to be trained on that research, and then boom, there you go. That's how you get the information. What happens if you ask what the word of the day is? Oh my god. It's maybe we need to do word of the game. Do we get a Chris Bear case on it? Maybe that's another Easter egg. Does it show how much Chris is losing on his put? Dude, I'm gonna put that into the chat. I'm gonna put that into the model. I'm gonna make it say how much Chris is losing on the on the put. We've got to ask that question. That's hilarious. Mark says, recommendation, let us add additions to the model. Yeah. So amit@dailypalantir.com. That's my email. If you have any questions or anything you would like to see added to the model, or even in the Twitter or YouTube chat, let me know, because this is a community built kind of project and I want to build it up as much as it can be to get as big as it can get. And so if you say, hey, we should be training it on this, or like this podcast that Shyam Sankar did 3 years ago, this should be into the model. It's probably in the model already. Let me know and we'll train it into the model. And then it'll be like the greatest crowdsource piece of software on one of the most interesting companies in the world. There is no other company that has been crowdsourced with due diligence from $6 to $27 better than Palantir. And there's no other company that has that many people that are actively searching for information other than Palantir. And so that's why I think it's exciting. And Rise says, any plans to expand this to other stocks such as Robinhood or SoFi? Okay, so the answer to this question is no. The reason for that is I don't think Robinhood and SoFi are as exciting as Palantir. And so that's why it's a little bit harder to do that, right? So in the context of Robinhood and SoFi and all this stuff, like Palantir to me is the most exciting thing. Bitcoin all-time high. Let me get to it. Oh my God, Bitcoin's trying to get to 70,000. Oh boy. So let me answer this last question, then we'll go to Bitcoin. That was the pitch. Thank you everybody for signing up. That means the world to me. The reason I don't want to do other stocks is because they're just not that interesting. They're not that exciting, and there's not that much data about them. Palantir is the one passionate community in the world where there's a ton of data, there's a ton of excitement. People actually care about it. They'd be willing to pay $40 a year for this. And there's more stuff for me to train the model on with Robin and SoFi. There's information, but there's not that much. So that's why it's going to be hyper-focused on Palantir. Okay, here we go. Let's get into so that was the pitch. Thank you everybody for joining hobbits.ai. Check it out, and I'll be talking about it later on different videos. Bitcoin right now, 69,703. Bitcoin right now, 69,703. I think if we hit 70,000 today on the stream, that's going to be an epic day. Let's see if this happens. Ethereum was just touching 4,000. So we got that. Robinhood is at 1760. Robinhood is up 7% on the day. Let me go to CleanSpark. CleanSpark is up, 14% on the day. MicroStrategy is up $1,400, up 10% on the day. Super, super exciting right now what we're seeing here. And obviously, we're getting more momentum, which is why these companies are going higher. Let's look at Coinbase. Has to be at 260 or something. Look at Coinbase, 270. Oh my God. Coinbase at 270. Goodness freaking gracious, dude. Goodness freaking gracious. Absolutely exciting. Ask the model when SoFi will go up. It's not going to be able to give you an answer to that one. It's not going to be able to give you an answer. Oh my God. Do we see 70? Do we see 70? Holy crap. Do we see 70? Do we actually see 70 right now? Do we actually see $70,000 right now, dude? I think we might actually see $70,000, dude. Ethereum's above 4,000. Ethereum's at 4. We hit 70,000 on Bitcoin. Oh my goodness. $70,000 on Bitcoin. Holy crap. Ethereum's at 4,000. Ethereum's at $4,000 right now. Bitcoin's up. Now let's see if it holds. We got to see if it holds. Is there not enough sellers to be there to make sure it holds? Wow. $70,000, dude. That is monumental. That is absolutely incredible. 70,000. Let me go to CNBC. What is CNBC saying? What are these guys saying? 70,000. Dude, we were fighting for this range for so long, and it looks like it might actually break through that and actually break out a little bit from 70,000. The ETF inflows are there. And if the ETF inflows are there, that's why we're seeing momentum here in the context of Bitcoin. Wow. MicroStrategy's up 11% right now. Let me go to the crypto stocks right now They might sell off a little bit. People might take their profits right here. So I would expect they could potentially hit a decline. Coinbase as well, falling a little bit right now. But if Bitcoin can crack through 70K and maintain it, we're going to have some momentum. Marathon's up 13%. Robinhood's up 6%. Bitfarms is up 11%. MicroStrategy up 10%. Cypher up 7%. And Coinbase, obviously, 264. They are up 9% as well on the day. Dude, this is crazy. Golden says amazing for something that isn't real. I mean, it seems pretty real, I guess, to people. It's falling down a little bit right now. It's falling down a little bit. It's trying to maintain this momentum. Yeah, look at that nasty red candle. There you go. There's the red candle. That one just got hit. So it just got rejected at 70,000, but it did get there. It did get there. We did get there. So let's just see if we can maintain that 70,000 level and see if it actually kicks up. See if it actually kicks up. Let's see. Wow. Oh, look at that red candle. Wow, dude, it just dropped $3,000. It just dropped $3,000. Holy crap. That's a lot. That's a lot. Definitely dropped. Oh, cool. We just had Ted Marbury, global head of commercial at Palantir, who just commented under the post, who said this is cool. All right. So shout out to Ted Marbury. He's the global head of commercial at Palantir. Just said this is cool underneath Hobbit's AI. Super, super awesome to see him. Check it out. Super, super fun. I think you like the name, Hobbits.ai. Okay. So some whales definitely just sold. Some whales definitely just sold. That has happened. You guys are not wrong about that. Some whales are definitely selling. We got there. The fun thing is we got there. That was, at least we got there. And now the question is just going to be how long we can sustain those levels as well. How long can we actually keep it up? How long can we actually keep it? And how long can we get this bad boy going? Carlos and Vitali sold. Yeah, it was Carlos. Carlos and Vitali fucking sold. Oh my God. That's hilarious. That's absolutely hilarious, dude. Dude, that's really cool, dude. At least we got there. But Coinbase now 262, Robinhood 1732. So the Bitcoin stocks are up. They're obviously kept it at 70,000. There was just too many sellers that stopped. A lot of limit sell orders at 70,000. Yeah, a lot of limit sell orders at 70,000. That were there. Now look, here's the thing. I think we're seeing resistance now. This is 2 times we got up to 69, 70,000, and then it got hit. 2 times we got to 69, 70,000, and then it got hit. Sold off 68,500. Yeah. It's not going to be easy to get above that 70 range, but it hit when it bursted through. Like it was there. It was absolutely just biting through that level. This isn't uncommon. This will break through, in my opinion. Yeah, I agree. I think this is very temporary. And maybe it might be a couple of weeks that we see that, but I think eventually there will be a breakthrough. The question is just when, and if it actually gets there. Also, the dip is definitely being eaten up today as well. This dip at 68.7, I'm sure people have limit orders stuck at 68, 68.7 that want to get more. Tesla right now down at 177. Imagine if Satoshi sold. That would be hilarious. Okay, so we got Bitcoin at 68,000 right now. What else is going on? Let's see Palantir as well. What's Palantir doing? Palantir at 2686. So Palantir fell off a bit. Robinhood 1739. The fact that we're above 17 is good. We just got to see if we can maintain that. MicroStrategy up 7%. Coinbase 263. SMH 238. That's up. Is Nvidia? Wow, Nvidia's up to 970. Holy crap, dude. Shout out to Tanner. I know he's in the chat. He's been holding Nvidia for a long time. Nvidia 970 is insane. Nvidia 970 is pretty insane. AMD, where's AMD? Where's AMD as well? 224 on AMD. That's up 6.3%. So AMD is up. Wow, AMD's up 6%, dude. AMD this week, that means is up like 20%, 18%. No, more than that. It's like 22%. That's just incredible, dude. That is absolutely incredible. Nvidia 966, AMD 6% up. Wow. That was an incredible show of strength. This is unstoppable. Yeah, I agree. Look, there's whales that are profiting right here, but there are going to be people that come back. Remember, Fidelity had 483 million last night on their Bitcoin ETF inflows. That's not stopping. And once it passes 70K, this whole psychological thing will go away, because once we're at 74, 75, 76, we're at a whole new level. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. Yeah, it didn't really collapse. I get it, but 70,000 down to 68.4. That's definitely came down a bit. And BlackRock might be trying to buy more Bitcoin cheap. So they themselves might be like buying Bitcoin off of whales, or they themselves might be going to institutions saying, "Hey, who can we buy Bitcoin?" They're trying to find cheaper Bitcoin. So they might be buying it from people that are selling. And if that's the case, then there you go. You got more Bitcoin continuing to sell off a bit until it eventually gets those inflows to keep it go higher. Dean says, "Perform for me, daddy." Let's see. CNBC is not talking about this right now. Let me see what other coverage we have here. If you're just joining, Palantir got upgraded to $35 today from, what's his name? From Dan Ives. So he upgraded it. Robinhood is up 6% right now. And so we are seeing some more momentum in equities. NVIDIA right now up 4% after being up 10% basically yesterday. And that's what we're seeing right now on Bitcoin. 70,000. 70,000 on Bitcoin. Tanner says, more than a 20x on my original investment, sold portions on the way up, but stopped selling at 150 when I realized I'm only hurting myself. Lessons learned. Yeah, dude, it's exciting. It's super, super, super exciting that you're holding on to that for that long. I mean, 20x is something that, and there's no reason to sell. There's NVIDIA. I think we've all realized NVIDIA is not a bubble. It's just not a bubble. And if it's not a bubble, then it's like, all right, well, if it's not a bubble, that means that there's going to be a lot more growth coming, even if it's not as fast as the 8x that it's done in like 2 years. So and I think the same thing with Palantir. There's literally going to be no reason to sell this thing as it grows. Now, I don't know if it's going to put up NVIDIA numbers one day, but if it gets to $300-400 billion right now at $50 billion, there's a lot of room for it to grow. And when it gets to that level, it's probably going to keep growing. So it's going to be really exciting to see where it operates. Where to sign up? Hobbits.ai for those that are just joining for the product. Hobbits.ai in the chat. That is where you can sign up. Hector says there's 2,700 people viewing on X. Yeah, dude, Twitter is so weird. Elon juicing the numbers is really weird because, like, he's not fooling anybody. I don't have 3,000 people on Twitter watching this. Like, that's just not happening. That's not happening right now. And we know that's not happening. So if we know that's not happening, I think that's that's one of those things we have to understand. Let's get an update on Bitcoin. Here's a crypto executive specifically talking about why he thinks 100,000 is likely on the way. So let's hear from him. And let's see what he says. Lucas says, hi. Hello, Lucas. Thank you for being here on Twitter. You are one of the not 3,000 people that are on Twitter. All right, here we go. Let's take a look at this.
Bitcoin now clawing back some of the losses from yesterday, at least in the green today, standing at about 66,875. Now, this comes after the cryptocurrency surpassed 69,000, blowing past its all-time peak briefly, and then taking a tumble. Our next guest called for Bitcoin to hit 100,000 in 2024, but retail investors still haven't come off the sidelines yet. To break down what the latest swings signal for crypto investor sentiment, Anthony Trenchev, Nexo co-founder, is here. Good to have you back on the show here. So how much of the movements that we've seen so far in this past week are about investor sentiment versus some profit taking or some other factors at play?
Well, to me, 100,000 is, in the cards for this year. So I think we have a long way to go. In crypto, we care about purchasing power and sound money. So the inflation-adjusted all-time high is now at $79,000, and so we have a little bit yet to climb to reach that, if you permit me this joke. But I think what is most important here is that the macroeconomic backdrop is perfect. Last time we were trading at those levels, interest rates were closer to zero. Now they're above 5%. And then you have to think about structurally who's holding Bitcoin. It is people like me who you would have a very hard time convincing to sell their Bitcoin. Push comes to shove, I might buy some put options, but that's as far as I would go. Then the ETFs are just gobbling up all the supply that is out there. And you have some hot money traders on the long and the short side. And those are the ones who are responsible for the wild swings we saw yesterday, for instance.
Yeah, the gains in Bitcoin certainly going to benefit you, Nexo, which is an exchange, right? I mean, what kind of surge in activity have you seen personally for Nexo? And talk to me about that mix of investors you just talked about. How is this different from what we saw when the last peak was hit in November of 2021?
Well, at Nexo, we service close to 6 million clients at present. And, we have Bitcoin holders and believers who went long a very long time ago, as low as $20,000 when they invested. So they're up several 100%. What they're doing right now is they borrow against their holdings, which, at the loan to value ratio of about 50%, you can take out the capital that you invested. And if, God forbid, we end up with Bitcoin being worthless, I doubt this is what happened, is you have protected your capital. So we see a lot of people that are just borrowing against their crypto. We see some institutions coming in, companies and startups that have invested in crypto coming on board as clients. But, what really is missing is the frenzy of retail buyers, new people coming in, retail buyers, and this is usually indicative of the top. So I think we're still quite far from it.
So Anthony, what is going to be that next catalyst that gets more retail investors?
All right, so Bitcoin is still down in the dumps, which is funny to say, but compared to 70,000, we are down in the dumps. 68,402, Palantir 2685. Entire market taking a little bit of a dip. Companies falling down just a little bit. It's not anything substantial. I mean, everything's still pretty green today. Apple as well, 171, that's up 1%. S&P 517, but taking a little bit of a dip from 20 minutes ago. Bitcoin right here is 68,388. So the question now becomes, after it came to 70K, is there enough retail excitement when you see Bitcoin past that 70,000 level for everyone to download Robinhood and Coinbase to buy some Bitcoin? I'll check on their app charting in a second. We'll see what they're ranking on the app charts. But when you see Bitcoin go above 70,000 and all your friends are talking about it, you're going to have more retail want to download the apps to buy in. And the funny thing about Bitcoin going up right now is that it's not retail driven. It's institutionally driven. Retail plays a part, but most of the retail is in altcoins, not in Bitcoin itself. But Bitcoin's a layer for the altcoins to go up. So what's really exciting about this is that if the institutional ETFs are buying more when it comes to Bitcoin, then the retail investors that are buying in as well, you're having inflows come from two angles, but the inflows that matter are from institutional investors. It's retail is just kind of the cherry on top, which is different from 2021. 2021, that wasn't the case. 2021, that was all of retail, which was not sustainable. Like, retail is not enough to. The fact that retail pumped this thing to 69,000 in 2021 is just incredible, because Bitcoin at 68,000 now, mainly from institutionals, means that when retail really does come in, which eventually it will, this thing could get seriously parabolic. And it's going to be interesting to see. Barfesco says, nope, wasn't long enough for the news to spread. We'll see. I mean, the world's out there. I'm sure everyone on Twitter was posting about it. A lot of people probably had some FOMO in that moment, at least downloaded the app, or maybe are thinking of downloading the app, and we'll see in the app numbers. But I think a lot more people, if it continues to stay at these levels, will get more excited about it. Let me check Robinhood right now on the App Store. Robinhood is at number 12 on finance. Coinbase is number 13. So these guys were number 2 and number 3 a couple days ago. Now they're number 12 and 13. So still up there in that top 20 range. And the question is just, can they break through? Robinhood 1736, CleanSpark 1934, that's up 8%. MicroStrategy up 5%. Palantir 2674, AMD 221, Coinbase 262, Unity 2758 as well. SMCI 1200, Celsius 8987, ARKB 6832, IBIT 3888, NYCB $3.73, Google 138. Tesla is getting a hit today. Tesla's not getting any love. 176. Tesla's actually down on one of the greenest days we've seen in the market. Tesla's down. Tesla's down. Amit, can you give a quick take on why Tesla is lacking? I think there's two things. Number one, China prices got cut, which means deliveries and margins are going to be bad in Q1. Most likely, Germany factory just got started. It got an attack yesterday, so from some like environmental groups. So numbers are not going to be the best going into Q1. The street knows that. Number two, Elon's tweeting a lot about stuff that doesn't matter, and I think Wall Street doesn't like it anymore. And so they're just like, you know what? We're selling it off, and like, it is what it is. You can either love it or hate it, but that's how Wall Street is perceiving it. So that's another reason we're seeing some downside on it. The main problem, I think, though, is primarily the China price cuts is not like people know the numbers are not going to be the best Q1. And if you know the numbers are not going to be the best, maybe it's not the best time to buy. Now, granted, I think generationally 170 will be relatively cheap over the next 5-6 years. So there are people who are willing to buy the dip. I just don't know if the street is willing to buy it the way they're willing to buy everything else. It's dead money for a while. It might be dead money for a while, yeah. And Matt is pretty Matt. I don't recall, you're pretty bullish on Tesla. So if Matt is saying that, then you kind of know that it's not the best. Bitcoin 68,241, Robinhood 1740. Now, the interesting thing about Robinhood is we need to maintain these gains. That's the one thing I'm worried about when it comes to Robinhood, is that it'll spike up, but then it'll give off the gains pretty quickly. So if Robinhood can actually hold the gains, that would be exciting, which means a close over 17. The funny thing about Robinhood is that above 19, there's really no volume shelf resistance. So it's a free ride to 33 once we get to 19. But we got to crack this $17 range, right? We got to actually be able to get there. So I don't think Robinhood will give up the gains, but it's there. And hopefully we're still able to get there. Webull is the name of the software. Webull is the name of the software that I'm using right now on YouTube. So let's see. Robinhood 1739. Let's see what we can keep doing. NVIDIA 961, IWM 209, Apple 171, Rivian $13, up 4%, S&P 500 517, Unity 2759, SMCI 1200 as well. All right, folks, I guess that is it for me. Exciting run on Bitcoin. We'll see where that continues. I will be back at like 1 p.m. I believe I'm interviewing Cern Basher. You might not know who Cern Basher is, but he is a big guy in the robotics community. I'm going to be talking to him about Figure AI, Tesla Optimus, all that stuff. So lunch with Amit today at 1 p.m. most likely will be with Cern Basher. So I'll be back. And will we have an app version of the website coming soon? Probably. We'll probably have an app version of it. Srivansion, thank you for asking that question. Most likely we'll have an app version, probably not for like another month or two, but we will likely have an app. For those that are just joining, Hobbits.ai, new software I launched, custom LLM to learn about Palantir. So check it out, and we'll keep going from there. Rivian sold 60,000 pre-orders. Okay, so that's why the market's probably excited as well. That's also why the market's probably excited. Robinhood 1739, Palantir 2684. Good stuff. I will see you guys at 1 p.m. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We'll talk robotics at 1 p.m., and then we'll be back 3:45 for the market close. Thank you, everybody. Have a good one. I will see you in a couple hours. Bye-bye.